Trickeration back to the quarterback. Wide open is Gavin Holmes. Touchdown Baylor, 38 yards. Nobody was in striking distance of Gavin Holmes.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
J.J. McCarthy. And McCarthy rolls out, fires. Touchdown Wolverines. Just like that. Luke Schoonmaker.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's the blitz.
We're going blitz zero.
Levis has time, complete, broken tackle. Tavion Robinson with his second touchdown of the night.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Tyler Warren's in the backfield, play fake, and to the corner of the end zone for Burton Strange, and he doubles up on touchdowns today. Special teams set it up. Strange finishes things off.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Here come the Canes. He'll throw, and he'll go up top. Caught! He's a Chisholm! He got it today! Wow! A bomb to Chisholm! This one 98 yards!
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Thursday afternoon, and this is 365 Sports. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left, and we have the full array, except Emery's not here today, of Levi, Jack, Garrett, and also Jacob behind the scenes doing all the things that we do that you can see and how you hear it and how you view it and how you see it later on, and we appreciate them as always. A couple of notes today. Max Olson joins us today at 4. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys. Craig's off the radar. Paul's top 5. Joshua Perry, who covers the Big Ten Network, his thoughts about maybe Minnesota and where they are. Jennifer Smoak's fantasy football guru segment at 5:35. And also, Baylor guard Adam Flagler today will join us at just after 5 o'clock. All of our thoughts and prayers to the folks in Florida. Just like we've said before with other states that have been hit hard, but Florida got hammered on the West Coast. We discussed it yesterday. Paul went to high school in Fort Myers. Family, Craig and I have family in Florida. Ours all survived. Very fortunate on the northern part, up north of Fort Myers and Tampa, St. Pete, and also in Clearwater. But, man, they got hammered. Paul's top 5 today will be about Fort Myers, Florida. All right, and you checked in with your buddies and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I checked in. Everything's not good. I mean, there's some devastation. Some people, have some severe flooding in their houses. There's not a lot of cell service, so there's a couple people I have not heard from. I know that I've seen, I went back to Facebook for the first time in months today and checked on, and there are people that are okay. So still waiting to hear from a couple, but so far, as good as it could be expected for some of them. But it's going to take a long time to rebuild that city.
A lot of work to be done there. And so we are thinking about everybody in the southern part of Florida and who also have been affected by that. All right, so this is a tweet from Max Olson. The Big 12 announced earlier today more hirings. They've had a slew of them in the last few days. Max Olson goes, the Big 12 partnering with Endeavor's WME Sports and IMG Media to lead global content and commercial strategy. But check the one line that he put in his tweet. the right social media strategy, advise on the use of data, sports wagering.
Yeah, that's coming in everywhere. But I would say the big key to that is that sports wagering is not legal in most of the states currently that the Big 12 is in. So if the Big 12 is going to try to throw some influence around to get that done, particularly in the state that houses its office, that would be very interesting to me because when we get whatever we get in Texas, if we do, it's going to be all or nothing. It would be sports gambling, casinos, everything or nothing. And that bill has been tied up for a while. There are, it's legal nationally now based on the Supreme Court cases, so you can vote on it. But Texas is not going to run down the door to open up sports betting, which makes no sense to me. But again, I'm not really an expert, so.
You reacted weird to my and. My and was, and what else did it say? NFTs and IP and the sports wagering part was highlighted, but there was other avenues there as well that they're clearly trying to make some money.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and so that's why I said and, because there was more to that. But yeah, sports wagering's interesting, and that's an obvious avenue to go down if you're trying to spark interest and you're trying to create more of a money flow into the conference. I mean, I think it's inevitable at this point. That's the direction pretty much all sports is headed. We get people, who I think ask from time to time about like sports wagering and, how much do y'all do that and whatnot. And, that's the hip, thing to do at this point is basically, the sports betting market. It's been peeled back a little bit in terms of, it's got some exposure out there in a major way, and there's a lot of money flowing, but there's still places like Texas, yes, that it's in the dark and it's uncharted territory. So, yeah, I think that it seems like an obvious, course of action for a conference trying to drum up revenue and a conference trying to be new and trying to be on the cutting edge. I mean, that's one way to do it because that's not something that college sports has really had to dance with, overall. But seems, like I said, inevitable with all the money that's flowing and especially with NIL and stuff like that. I mean, at this point, how many things are we going to be able to keep away from the college game to protect the college game? I mean, it's pretty much professionalized in the football part, at least, and probably basketball as well. So it seems like it's only a matter of time for all that to be, in play.
In Europe, soccer, you can go to a stadium and place a bet at the stadium. There are sports books at the stadium, and look, I don't know what the corruption level is like, but I do know it's regulated through the government. And if you do that, then sometimes when you let people do things, then the illegal part of it kind of fades away because, they can just go do it. There's not all these other, avenues they go down to chase the action. So, eventually we're going to see it in America. You're going to be able to walk into a Major League Baseball park, an NFL stadium, or wherever, especially depending on the state, and place a bet on the game you're watching in the stadium. That's going to happen. And if college athletics doesn't get on board, then they're costing themselves dollars.
Yeah, and some of the other responses to Max highlighting the wagering, Chris Vanini, we've had him on the show. Can't believe you're ignoring all the NFT possibilities. And then Max, conference realignment is way more exciting inside the metaverse. Nicole Arbach, I'm picturing this as roller coaster tycoon. And then others, initially I read that as the WWE, and my imagination was running wild with Mike Gundy cutting pregame promos along with so much more. But the thing I've also noticed is they are adding a lot of positions that I think Brian Etheridge, one of the partners of Sikkim 365, even mentioned that there was one job you would think was obvious, like chief marketing officer. That doesn't mean they didn't have people doing things like that, but it's like they didn't have that particular role. And that Brett Yormark, one of, I'm sure, things he wanted to do was, hey, I'm going to do this. We want to find money. Then you need to let me hire some people to help us find that money, or at least figure it out how to find it and where it is.
And I also don't think the guy from New York who was running the Nets is probably just rolling into the Big 12 offices going like, yeah, this will work. I mean, come on. Like, that's Bob Bowlesby had his people and they did things a certain way, but I mean, this is brand new. This is not, not that Bob Bowlesby was Mr. All Shucks or anything, but, the Big 12 was what it was under his leadership. And now it's going to be something wildly different as much as it can be under Brett Yormark. I mean, you start bringing up Endeavor and what was that, WME and whatever. I mean, that's his connections that they clearly, saw as benefits when they decided, like, yeah, he should be the guy moving forward. I mean, here's a conference who was on death's door like a year ago, basically, and now they're on the hunt in expansion. At least that's what they say, and I know that that's a calculated chess move to even say that, so I'm not sure what the end goal really is, but I think they're open for business, like Brett Yormark said. They're signing up sponsors like every other week. They're partnering with, agencies. They're mentioning getting involved in sports gambling. I mean, I think he's basically doing what he can to squeeze as much out of this conference as can be squeezed out, and we'll see where that takes him, but I think it's definitely an aggressive but somewhat outside the box and just further down the road look than the Big 12's had in probably ever in its existence, quite frankly.
Yeah, and one of the things about marketing that is interesting to me is that this is something that the conference has been, I'll just say it, abysmal at over its history. Why do we think the SEC and the Big Ten are better? And I even asked Mac about this. I think, Craig, you might not have been here that day, but about, what is the Big 12 going to do to make sure that people believe it to be the brand that it is? And why do we think the Big Ten and SEC are better? Is it because of their dominance on the football field? Well, the SEC has a little bit more skin in that game than the Big Ten does, but the Big Ten over the last 20 years has had one school that's been good regularly, okay? And elite,
yeah.
And that's Ohio State. So in the recency of all this and the marketing of these conferences, there has been a better sell job done on the public that the SEC is, the SEC, it's just better or different, whatever it is.
You know what?
Just
When
means
when
more.
they say something and come up with something, they absolutely back it up, and they make you, even if you don't believe it, believe it.
But why is Coca-Cola the best soda? Because, well, it might be, but they also spend a lot of time telling you it is. That's what the Big Ten and SEC did. The Big 12 was so bad at it, so bad at telling you why they were good. And that's why they continually have these problems, because if you look at most of the conferences and take off, if you shave off Oklahoma, Texas, and the top two brand names from every conference and get in the middle, it's all the same, really. But the Big Ten has schools that have been riding high off this for years. But what have they contributed as far as titles and things like that? Nothing, but the conference markets itself well, so the college football viewing public believes it to be better.
For example, Fox, I don't know what's going on with the Fox college football account. Like, I don't know who's running this thing. But ever since the realignment phase started this past summer, there's been obvious tweets by this account that I wonder if they're trolling Big 12 fans and Pac-12 fans and just college football fans sometimes. They had a tweet that I saw before coming over here that was the top teams, what was it? Total points per game or something like that. And it was a totally rigged formula. Because it was the most points or whatever scored by conference, and it doesn't take into account that the SEC and the Big Ten have 4 more teams. So it just puts it out there like the SEC and the Big Ten are scoring the most, but it doesn't have any caveat. It doesn't have any asterisk saying they also have 4 more teams than the team that if you did it per capita, or the conference if you did it average-wise, guess who would be on top? It wouldn't be those two. It would be the Big 12. But that's not how they positioned it, and I'm not Mr. Tinfoil Hat guy, but that was very obviously done that way for a reason. And I know that doing a tweet like that doesn't convince the world of what you're ultimately trying to pull off, but that is how you poison the water a little bit. And people aren't that smart. There's a lot of dumb people out there, and they'll just, SEC and Big Ten. But if you actually look deep into it, it's clearly the Big 12's right there. And so there's stuff like that happens. And I've especially noticed that with Fox that just made me kind of go, on the marketing side of things. And there's been a lot of that over the years. The ESPN's done a number on everybody's brains with the SEC, and they're just very fortunate that the SEC went out and won title after title after title with various teams. They're not a one-trick pony like the Big Ten was mostly until Michigan's now been in the mix, and Michigan State's been in the mix a little bit, but Ohio State's basically carried them, certainly national title-wise. The SEC's been far deeper and had far more, teams of interest, from the Floridas to the LSUs and so on. Alabama, obviously, Auburn in there. So they backed it up. I give them credit for all the insanity and Feinbaum and all the brain, conditioning basically. They backed it up and made it feel like, okay, dang, it does mean more out there. It does mean more when you look at the TV ratings and all that. With the Big Ten, I feel like we've just kind of been told they matter because they're the oldest. and they have the most people because they're in big old cities. And that's basically what it is. And you're supposed to respect them because they've been around the longest. And I get that there's a lot of tradition there over time. But, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much been the Ohio State show. So, yeah, what is the Big 12 when you think of them? You know, in the Big 10, it's academic schools with prestige. They've been around for 100-plus years, and Northwestern and Michigan and all these schools. The SEC, no one cares more. The South and all that, the best brand of football. What is the Big 12? I don't know, man. They're not even just the Midwest Conference
they're like
anymore.
Throwing darts at a dartboard the way they've tried to position themselves. And sometimes they've hit a number or they've hit a slogan, and then it's just jumped back and slapped them right in the face because something completely opposite happened, like run to champion.
Yeah.
All right, so what Craig was saying, Garrett, do you have that? This is something, now, when you look at this, there's two things. There's another part we didn't even bring up yet. Total touchdowns scored by Power 5 conference. Now, I'm not sure if they're like the SEC logos at the bottom. The SEC 258, you see the numbers. Big 12 at the bottom, 191. The SEC has how many teams?
14.
14 teams, which means they're averaging just over, it's like 18 touchdowns per school. The Big 10 has how many teams? Like right now?
14 teams.
14 teams. The Big 10's averaging about 17 touchdowns per school. How many in the ACC, Paul?
14 teams.
15 and a half touchdowns per school. How many in the Pac-12?
12.
16 and a half touchdowns per team. How many in the Big 10?
The Big 12,
The Big 12, I'm sorry.
10 schools.
19. So on average per team. Now, here's the other thing. Remember when the Big 12 used to get crucified because they scored too many points?
Yes.
Nobody played defense?
You remember when there was actually national television reporters that we're supposed to respect as college football analysts who still have that stereotype that they're trotting out there like a week ago and getting called out on national television?
Yeah, Acho the other day said they don't have any commitment to play defense.
Yeah.
Watch
and then
the freaking conference.
And then, you know, and I respect what he does. I don't see a ton of it, but I know that I did see the backpedal that he attempted on Twitter afterwards when he got called out over that, and you're not fooling anybody who's actually paying attention and can think for themselves. No, what I meant was, and it's like, no, dude, we saw exactly what you meant, so you clearly weren't paying attention and you got called out on it because you still think the Big 12 is what it was in like 2015, or you're just not paying attention at all and are throwing darts blindly because that wasn't a misspeak or anything like that. That was you clearly just being off target. So not trying to single him out, but there is that reputation still. Like if people aren't even watching you enough to know that the brand of football's changed in like 4 years ago, that's a problem. Like clearly that's a problem that no one's taking the time whose job it is to take the time to even know that the style of football being played is not what it was 5 years ago. So yeah, that's part of the reputation and the image problem that they have. And you know, in the grand scheme of things, just go out and win is all you can really do. But certainly it's an uphill battle for Brett Yormark to try and carve out a lane for them where there is a bit more respectability and you don't have so much of an image issue as they probably do right now. And credit, like I said, to the SEC, because if they had gone and, you know, we're the best, and never won anything, we'd long ago have like been like, shut up already. Like, yeah, you may care more, but you're not, you know, whatever. But they backed it up. They absolutely backed it up. The Big Ten backed it up with a TV deal, basically. And so we're supposed to all care about that and respect that. And I guess you respect the fact that they're going to be making way more money than everybody but the SEC. And those two are clearly positioned. But after that, like, yeah, I have no idea kind of where most of the world sees the Big 12. And we could do this also for the ACC. We could do this for the Pac-12. You know, they have an image problem. The ACC is kind of in no man's land, it feels like. So it's not exclusive to the Big 12, but Brett Yormark, like I said, does have his work cut out for him.
How bad does it have to be your shillery, if that's even a word, your shill factor, that you as it, like, we can talk about it, Craig can talk about it as a general, like, I've noticed several tweets, and within 5 minutes of that, we can find a tweet where the Fox college football Twitter feed is saying something that's incomplete information. It's not untrue, but it's incomplete. So, yes, the SEC has scored more touchdowns than the Big 12. They have 4 more teams. God in heaven, I hope they do. I mean,
yeah, but it was positioned that way. And the other part of it was what I mentioned is that, and I saw TJ, who's a huge Texas fan, but he also loves what we do and he listens to us. He's always interchanging stuff with us. He was like, wait a minute. There was a point where, like, the SEC was the one that played defense, and they still have amazing defensive players, and some teams that are very good, Georgia as good as anybody, better. But it's interesting. More touchdowns, like they have more teams, but also there was a time the Big 12, and in some cases it was right, but they didn't play, or they didn't have many teams that seemed like they were committed to playing defense. That is not the case. That doesn't mean you won't see 50 to 45. You will. But that right there was interesting.
You're going to see that. I mean, here's the problem is that the folks who were slow to catch up to the fact they've been playing some defense the last 5 years or so. I mean, certain clubs have, Iowa State, Baylor, certainly, TCU under Gary Patterson, and then kind of off and on in some other places. But now there's a little bit of a mix. And so you will see Texas Tech or Kansas who are out there basically playing old school Big 12 football on offense. And so now you're almost right again just by default if your opinion didn't change from 5 years ago, except for if you try and say that they're not playing defense at all, like Acho did, then that's what exposes you, because you clearly are not paying attention or following the league very closely. And I read through his entire, and I'm not trying to single him out. I'm really not. It's just that he's an example of an opinion I've seen just thrown out there that just, again, exposes who's saying it. But yeah, now it's kind of a mixture, but there's certainly some defense being played. I don't know how you watch Baylor, for example, as you know, often as we do, obviously, and think that there's not defense being played.
All right, Patrick, you said, hey, come on, guys. Come on, Craig. The SEC's been a one-trick pony called Alabama. Sure, LSU got one. LSU's had 3 since 2000.
Yeah. LSU started the party,
won.
buddy.
Auburn.
LSU started with the Oklahoma win when Oklahoma was like the greatest team of all time, and they went and beat Oklahoma. What was that, 21-14 in New Orleans at the Superdome? And then that's basically when the ball started rolling for the SEC. You had Cam Newton after that. You had Alabama's dynasty. You had Florida with Tebow and Urban and Hernandez and the Pounceys and all those. I mean, yeah, it was like one after the other. So
Alabama's had the most of them, but they've had 5 different teams, I believe,
they've
who
carried
have won a national title.
Yeah, they've carried it. And what I'm really saying, though, is when you started to see a lot of that SEC, when that became a thing, because I don't think anybody like before 2000 remembers that being a thing at all. That wasn't. And then it started to become like this thing in the 2000s. And the reason why it worked was because you had LSU LSU backed it up like, boom, we're the SEC. Here's LSU. They're here now. And then here's Auburn and Cam. Here's Johnny and A&M. One after the other. And then, yes, all throughout there's Alabama basically being the most dominant team. Now here's Georgia. So like half the leagues won a title or basically played for one in that 20-year period and basically been involved in every single championship, or not every single one, but a majority of the championships outside of like OU, USC in 04 and certain sprinkling of games like that, USC, Texas, but we're going all the way back to the 2000s with that. So that's my point, is that they have been consistently and multiple brands involved in the big picture and winning titles, and that's why they've been able to back that up. Otherwise, it would have just been empty and like, why you people are nuts? Like, why are y'all so obsessed with this conference?
Yeah, but they did back it up. Yeah.
It's backed up. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for.
And that's what the Big 12 desperately needs, and they've had opportunities. They've had some things that have gone wrong, but man, if Oklahoma could have just won one of those after they did in 2000, if Texas could have been able to finish the deal when they had the injury in Oklahoma against Alabama, but they didn't. And since that time, you've had teams flirting, even Oklahoma, the semifinal game and the shootout with Georgia, but they couldn't finish. And that's one of the things missing, is a national title since 2005. Lots of good stuff in the chat room. We will open the phone lines at 5:30 today. 254-339-1122. We left
3:30.
What did I say?
5:30.
Well, we'll do it then. No, we won't.
Can't.
We can't. At 3:30 today, we will open the courts, the phones at 3:30, 254-339-1122. Now, a couple of other things. The Matador Club. Man, are they helping out the Texas Tech Athletic Department. They are now offering 5-figure NIL contracts to all Texas Tech softball players. 3rd team-wide NIL deal for a Tech team. Previous ones were the Matador Club with football and Level 13 agency with women's basketball, both at $25,000 per player. So now this gets into Texas Tech softball. And I got a feeling that Texas Tech men's basketball is doing just fine with Mark Adams and what they did last year. And even before, when Chris Beard was there, and I know that's like a cuss word, but they did. They're rolling along, too. So right now, the Matador Club coming up big for Texas Tech. Now, the University of Houston, we discussed Dana Holgerson a little bit yesterday and how things have not but they're close to, it seems like, coming off the rails. So Joseph Duarte covers Houston. How Houston has been derailed by flag football. So I was like, wait a minute. So here is what is in the depth of that tweet. Through 4 games, Houston has 43 penalties, 384 yards, both the most among 130 schools in the FBS. An average of under 11 penalties a game, just under. They're on pace to match the school record in 1989 of 129 penalty yards per game.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
Isn't that when they had Klingler?
But 89, they were pretty darn good.
They could just get
like
over.
In 1989, you might have gotten away with it, but in 2022, right now, it's costing them games. And, some schemes and coaching staffs don't care about penalties. Some do, but when you're not good, you need to start caring about them.
Andre Ware was the quarterback at that team.
Yeah, they had a Heisman Trophy winner quarterback. So they could probably get away with it better than they could now, because right now it's certainly hurting them badly. And
discipline problem clearly.
Yeah.
So Dana Holgerson needs to right that ship, or they're going to be, having some more fights on the sidelines probably. Wasn't that the result of the fight, or wasn't that the catalyst for the fight? Wasn't it a stupid penalty?
Yeah, there was a penalty
on the receiver. And that's what caused that fight on the side. So it's been a bugaboo for them, and they're not nearly where I think myself and probably a lot of other people thought that they would be. When you start, I know Jeff Traylor would cuss us out for using the term G5, or would not be happy with it, but just speaking of Houston and that G5 status, which they're still a part of for this season, they were thought by myself and I think a lot of other people to be probably the best candidate out of the G5, or at least you could argue they were the best candidate out of the G5 to represent those schools this year in the postseason potentially, and they're not even going to come close. I mean, that's not happening. I don't think there is necessarily a lock from the G5 like the Cincinnati run last year. But I thought Houston could potentially be a part of that. BYU is kind of, even though they're independent, but just as far as non-Power 5 schools, and that's now fizzled after the Oregon loss. But Houston's been a disappointment. I mean, they flat out have been, and I think that they've lost some close games. So it's not like doom and gloom that they're getting blown out by a bunch of teams, but it's just a little off. And when you see some of the angst, whether it was the sideline issue a couple weeks back or it's Holgerson's post-game last week, and I know he came out and he apologized basically and tried to clean that up as much as possible, but there's just this there right now, and they got to get over that because there's still a lot of season left to go. So a good starting point would be, eliminate some of the penalties, but that's going to require some better discipline. That's on Holgerson ultimately.
Somebody asked about where John Jenkins was. Jack Pardee was the coach in 89. Jenkins was at Houston as the head coach in 90, 91, and 92, but he was their offensive coordinator with the run and shoot, Andre Ware, et cetera. I don't know where he is. I don't see that in his bio. He's been a part of the Canadian Football League, the Fall Experimental League, the Fan Control League. In fact, that's what he was doing last year. So I'm sure someone like that, he's coaching somebody somewhere and enjoying what he does. Tonight, South Carolina at home against South Carolina State on the SEC Network, and Utah State and Brigham Young tonight at 7 o'clock kick on ESPN. So a nice chance to see Brigham Young. They had the great win against Baylor, and then, of course, the next week lost against Oregon, and now they have a rival in Utah State coming up, in fact, tonight.
Yeah, BYU should win that game. I don't really have any questions about that. And do y'all remember a guy by the name of Spencer Rattler? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he's still playing football. You might not realize that, but he is. And, that has been okay. I mean, his arm talent is still, what it is.
Elite,
but it's not like he's, just changed the world out there in Columbia.
I have not heard his name except a promo.
Yeah. He has not changed the program.
Right.
And look, it was going to take a lot more than him, but he was.
Well, but they lost to Arkansas and Georgia.
Yeah.
But they've beaten Georgia State and Charlotte. So
okay, so that should provide a great opportunity to hear his name a little bit. Again, have you heard Spencer Rattler's name much since he went to South Carolina?
Only in a promo. Yeah. 909 yards in 4 games. That's about 250, a little bit less than 230 a game or so. But 2 touchdowns and 5 picks. He has been sacked 10 times.
There you go.
There you go. All right, we have tomorrow night, just a little bit of a preview.
They'll win tonight, though.
Houston is playing tomorrow night on ESPN. They're playing Tulane, which could be fun to watch. UTSA, guess who that schedule they had with all the teams they played? They're playing Middle Tennessee State, who just came off the big win against Miami. Boise State, San Diego State, Washington, UCLA is a primetime game tomorrow night on ESPN in New Mexico at UNLV. Phil Venzer will be watching that game. All right, when we come back.
UNLV's good, man.
No, I know.
They've been good, and that's something to monitor out there. And Washington, UCLA, that's interesting. Obviously the Huskies are off to a good start, but how good is UCLA really? We'll find out. I mean, they're off to a fine start, so that should be a really interesting outcome in the Pac-12. And, yeah, we could get into more of those, but I'm sure we will.
We have text from you, chat room from you, and if you want to jump on the line, it's open right now. 254-339-1122 on college football this week, and this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, it's been a couple of days. It's since Tuesday morning when I had my 2 crowns put in. And it's interesting how I chew now, like normal, because for a long time I had a couple of teeth both pulled and then implants for a while, and you have to then let things settle down, and then the crowns, the impressions, and then you go and get them shaded the way you want, and then they put them in. And it's amazing how they do it. And I don't know who started it, but it's incredible. And I have felt so much more comfortable because now I don't just chew on the left side of my mouth. I can chew what I want, when I want, from wherever I want, and I appreciate what Dr. Steve Childress and his amazing staff do every single day for not just me, but other patients as well. Yes, if you want teeth cleaning, they can do that. If you want something a little bit more, you want like someone that your family goes to, smile makeovers, dental implants, I mentioned those, and sedation dentistry, they can do that as well. Or if it's something that maybe is painful, and Dr. Childress has met me after hours at his location in Robinson to alleviate some stress and pain so that I could at least sleep, and then a couple of days later came back to get, it was a root canal. It's Dr. Steve Childress and an amazing staff at Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
If you're out looking for a great selection of new cars and trucks, then shop Allen Samuels in Waco, because we have some of the best deals in Central Texas that will put you in a new vehicle and driving away with confidence. Save big this month on a new 2022 Dodge Charger GT and get $500 bonus cash with 2.9% for 72 months. Plus, first responders get an extra $500 off your purchase. Stop by today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
254-339-1122. And we will get to your calls. Chris is on hold. We'll take others here over the next few minutes here on 365 Sports. The 402, you guys, I went back and listened to your segment on Houston and Dana Holgerson. These kind of sideline and media incidents and snafus remind me in a way of Bo Pelini at Nebraska. Bo had fire and fought for his players, but he wasn't diplomatic, didn't show the decorum needed when dealing with the media and the university staff. There are some things I think about Dana does not want to deal with as a head coach. It's becoming public. Even if he wins, embarrassing the university, if that's the case, is a one-way ticket to getting fired.
Yes, it is. And look, so you can be a level of fiery in 2022. You can't be 1985 fiery. You can't be Woody Hayes fiery. You can't be Mark Mangino fiery or Jim Leavitt fiery, even though all those guys were fiery and got fired. So it's, you have to maybe do it a little differently. I worry that Dana Holgerson is veering into Gary Patterson territory where, he gets so mad and he starts lashing out that it gets weird. Tom Herman got like that a little bit too. And so when things don't go well, you start snapping. And no matter how good a coach you are, if you can't deal with those things. And I do think that there's a section of coaches in college football who just want to be football coaches. And when you're a head football coach in college, there's so many other jobs that you have that are not just, I just want to coach football.
Yeah, I do think that Holgerson's one of those former Leach assistants that they're kind of from a different era, like you're saying, Paul, where you could kind of be like that type of fiery and it doesn't fly as much anymore when it's just full-blown like anger, like it kind of comes across when he's like he is sometimes. So, they had a really good year last year. It didn't end in like some glorious bowl game, but they were 12-2, and, that was part of the reason why you looked at this year and you felt like, oh, Clayton Tune's coming back, and some of the receivers are back, and you just felt like, hey, this could be a year where they really do some damage and really launch themselves into the Big 12, coming up next season. But that's still, I guess, technically possible because the majority of their conference schedule remains, but they've already got as many losses now through the first month as they did all of last year. So it's got to be a disappointment, even if the schedule's been pretty tough, as we outlined yesterday. They haven't been playing any, patsy team. Like they played good teams. So you give them credit there, and that's where I'm kind of unsure and why yesterday I asked for Houston fan opinion, because you can see where they could still end up being pretty good, but the way they've gotten to where they've gotten so far has just been very and just kind of angry. And so that's why I wonder if, like, it just feels like something's about to pop, you know, like I just feel like the pressure's rising a little bit too early on in the season. And that's why I wanted to hear from Houston fans is if, oh, no, it's cool. Like, it's been frustrating first month, but it's going to be fine. Or if it's like, it's all too frustrating this first month. It's a little too angry for us. And that's what I wasn't sure about.
I think especially now that Urban Meyer's an example of this. He was never a guy who got angry. He was always kind of a guy who got indignant if you challenged him. We're also seeing a time where the head coach can't just say things and then it be gospel. And there's a lot of guys who also came out of that era. You know, Urban Meyer's shtick doesn't work anymore because he can't just say, like, look, I said it. I always make good decisions, and because I said it and my decisions are never wrong, then that's it. Same with Dana Holgerson. Well, if you're getting angry about things and you're kind of lashing out, you have to know that, you know, you can't just do that because you're the head football coach anymore. It doesn't, the old school world of everything I say goes and it's fine doesn't really work anymore.
All right, to the calls. Chris, we start with you, right, Paul? 254-339-1122.
All right, let's go to Chris in Missouri. You're on Sick of 365 Radio.
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Great. Thanks for calling.
Great.
Hey, a question for you. We've had 4 weeks. Look, now, from each of you, which are the games that Baylor should now be circling on the schedule? And do you think Kansas is one of those teams that could threaten Baylor? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Chris. The call was a little bit wobbly.
Which games should they be circling the schedule?
They're in the Big 12 Saturday.
They're in the. Here's the thing about the Big 12, Chris. Circle the rest of the schedule.
Yeah.
Because there's no bad team and there's no team that's clearly well ahead of the other ones.
At least from what we've seen so far. And they haven't played enough of each other, but that will all kind of like shake itself out.
Kansas can score enough to where they're a threat to beat anybody. I mean, and so if they get hot and score a bunch of points and you're off that day, you're in trouble.
I think that the way the Big 12 is currently constructed, it's kind of that sorry answer. Yeah, like it's pretty much everybody, and I hate that is the answer because it would be, and I'm sure you're looking for, you know, something a bit more concise and like, oh, a couple of teams that you really are watching out for, Chris, but it really is every week now because of the fact that even, yes, Kansas is at least capable of dropping like a 40 burger on you if you're not careful because of, you know, the fact they've got a pretty stellar quarterback and some good pieces around him. So, I mean, you look at this weekend, Oklahoma State, that's the last I looked, that line was like under 2. And I don't know if it still is. I haven't looked in the last day or so, but that's what it was when I last looked yesterday. So that shows you how close they think that this game this weekend is going to be, and that's a home game. Granted, it's the team that they, you know, faced in the Big 12 title game, so it should, you would think, be one of the better teams they play. But the week after, West Virginia, I feel great about Baylor being better than West Virginia, but are they better than West Virginia on Thursday night in Morgantown? I don't know. That complicates things a little bit. Kansas is now more of a question mark. Texas Tech, I think they're better than Texas Tech, albeit by a small margin, but are they better than Texas Tech in Lubbock on potentially a Saturday night? I don't know. You know, that's suddenly, and I don't know that it's going to be a night game, but if they take care of their business, I can't imagine that it won't be. And then it's Oklahoma, and then it's K-State. The one team I really don't know, like I really have much of a grip on right now is TCU, because they appear to be good, but I don't know to what level of good, and I'm still waiting to kind of see more of them. But even if they're kind of a paper tiger, based on what we've seen, they have Baylor's number regardless. So, you know, they had no business beating them last year and did. They've had no business beating them like 2 out of the last 4 meetings, and they have.
They're Baylor's Kansas State, like Oklahoma.
Exactly. They're Baylor's kryptonite. So there isn't, it's all those games for the reasons I just outlined. And then they close with Texas on Black Friday in Austin. So there's no game remaining where you're like, oh, yeah, that's an automatic win.
And that can change based on attrition or based on a
injuries,
team getting hot or someone coming back. Scotty B, good question. Which ranked versus ranked teams, games this weekend, would you see as upsets happening? Now, one of the first ones I thought about was Oklahoma State Baylor. Baylor's ranked lower, but they're favored against Oklahoma State. So the only ones that I can think of that are ranked against ranked that might be an upset. I don't know what the line says about Kentucky and Ole Miss. I'm not sure what Mississippi's favored by a touchdown. Mississippi's ranked 14th. Ole Miss, or Kentucky, is ranked 7th. The other one is Alabama-Arkansas. Arkansas 17-point favorite, number 2 against number 20. There's also Wake Forest and Florida State. FSU's a touchdown favorite, and they're 22 and 23. That wouldn't be really an upset if Wake Forest won it. They're ranked higher. Maybe it would be for Vegas. How about NC State, a 7-point underdog, number 10 against number 5 Clemson on the road?
Yeah, those would be – NC State would be an upset of Clemson, although maybe not as earth-shattering once you've seen NC State play at full strength. And I do think, if Arkansas beats Alabama, anybody beats Alabama, that's an upset.
What was the question again exactly?
Which ranked teams against each other, which would be considered the most likely of an upset this weekend. And again, Baylor 16 against 9 or whatever, Oklahoma State, there's 2 polls. That, if they were to win – at home, they're favored by just a couple of points.
The easy answer is Arkansas over Alabama. That would be the biggest shock.
No, the most likely.
I would say if it's most likely, then I'm going to say Ole Miss over Kentucky.
Okay, well, Ole Miss is favored.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess it's
okay. Oklahoma State versus Baylor then is a pretty likely choice because again the spread's like under 2, and that's a road game for the Cowboys, and yet they're barely not favored. So. That's about as tight as you'll get, I would suspect. And I'm trying to kind of glance.
Kentucky game with Ole Miss is sure.
And that's right there, Clemson. Too. And NC State, it's all 3 of those. I mean, there's not really, I don't think, a lot of separation. So, and that's the thing, though, like Wake Forest and Florida State, that's 22 versus 23.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, what's really the difference there? But, those are the most logical if we're talking ranked versus ranked,
All right, from the text line, the 903, which is the same number as the calls, 254-339-1122. You think Oklahoma bounces back to beat TCU? This is from the 903, that is East Texas.
I would think so, but that's what I was kind of saying a second ago about I don't really know what to think of TCU just yet. I think that Max Duggan back at quarterback has been a good thing. I think that's worked well for them. I think they've got a nice little rushing attack with Kendry Miller and DeMercado. And, obviously Quentin Johnson at wide receiver. I mean, there's a lot of things to like about TCU. They haven't just fallen off the map defensively like you might have just assumed because of Gary Patterson's departure. But I don't know how good they are. Like, I think they're fine. I don't know to what extent, if that makes sense. And I think we'll learn a lot of that this weekend, seeing them go up against, that Oklahoma offense and to see, what's really interesting about this game, right? TCU's offensive coordinator is.
Oh, the Oklahoma guy, the quarterback coach, wasn't it?
The brother of the Oklahoma head coach, Garrett Riley, is the TCU offensive coordinator. Yeah. So I think that's an interesting subplot to this game. You can imagine the pandemonium on the message boards if Lincoln Riley's brother was to take them down for their second straight loss in Big 12 play. So that's going to be really interesting. But I don't know about TCU. I think they're capable of winning this game. I'll say that. I think they're capable of winning this game if Oklahoma's not careful. I am taking Oklahoma, though. I think they bounce back because I think that's been kind of the trend for Big 12 teams so far is they lose a game and then you kind of see them in their comeback really show who they are, like Baylor after BYU, for example, right? I think we're going to see that. You would hope if you're an Oklahoma fan with them this weekend after what happened against K-State. So that's what I'm expecting is them to be recalibrated and refocused and ready to roll in Fort Worth. But I definitely give TCU a puncher's chance, no doubt.
All right, from Joel Space Coast Knight, he's a UCF fan. He goes, it seemed like Houston is happy to be joining the Big 12, but Cincinnati and UCF are focused on task at hand. Again, Gus is only in his second season at UCF. He's building things different. It's not that they're not happy to be joining the Big 12, but we haven't really seen much. We haven't really, they're just going about their business. And Houston, of course, is right here when they've played Tech, and they played UT San Antonio. And then they were beaten by Kansas. So, yeah, it's right here in our backyard. I think everybody, and Brigham Young has made it clear as well, it is. I wonder how many teams in FBS, if they would have played, and a lot of them maybe, UTSA, Texas Tech, and Kansas would run the table there. And I'm not saying there wouldn't be 30. I don't know. I don't know how many there would be. Maybe there wouldn't be that many. And then what Texas Tech has faced with NC State, Houston, and Texas. And they're in pretty good shape. But now again, interesting road trip to Manhattan.
I just don't think there's been much crossover to discuss. Like BYU, we could talk about them a bunch because they played Baylor, you know. So and then Houston, they've had a couple dalliances with the Big 12 already. So you know, playing Kansas and playing Texas Tech, they've already played a couple Big 12 games. Whereas UCF and Cincinnati have been kind of still over in their own little world with their schedules and the American slate. So I think if we start to get, you know, some of those crossover matchups of the American teams, then maybe some of that will spark up. But, yeah, it does kind of seem like they're on sort of a different planet at the moment. But I think that's mostly just because BYU and Houston have played preview games, so to speak.
And he was also saying, in particular, what you're talking about is they keep, it looks like Fickle and Malzahn have them focused on what's going on right now, not so much what might be going on down the road. Not that Houston's doing that, we don't know. But that's a pretty good point. All right. Anything else, Paul? 254-339-1122. I think there was one more text line question.
No more calls. No, not yet.
Let's see here. From the chat room. From TR. Remember we were discussing marketing and things that they have screwed up at times in the Big 12. TR, the Big 12's biggest mistake was a conference championship game. Could have been selling the fact that they were the only conference where all teams play everybody in their conference and the one true champion, but you would still have a conference championship game to have that.
No, they tried to do that. That was one true champion.
No. But have a conference championship game the same year. When they
is he saying that it was a mistake to have one?
No, they didn't have one. Remember,
that was 14, a mistake. Yeah, of course it was a mistake.
Well, that's why they changed it.
Yeah,
that's why they changed it. I thought he said it was a mistake to not have one. Like, no, it was a huge
that's the
mistake.
Debate too, though. You can have we could do a whole hour on whether the conference championship games are better or worse for certain conferences. That was a whole SEC thing in the '90s. It was really building up the conference title game. Like, people act like those. Like, when you were growing up in the '70s and '80s, were conference title games that big of a deal?
There weren't any.
Right, exactly.
No, there weren't any.
But would you think that, based on the way we talk about them these days, you would think that they were an institution, right?
Oh, no.
That we've always had conference championship games.
Was the SEC the first to do that? Were they the first to do that?
Yeah. And then they built it up and they marketed it to to what it became. And that was not even when they were really at the height of their powers. That was a good decade before, really. But that's what I'm saying is we think now, like, how could you not play a conference championship game? And it's like that's not even really a thing beyond the last 30 years, quite frankly. But it feels like it's always been a thing.
Can you imagine in the days of the Big 8 with Nebraska and Oklahoma every year fighting for 1 and 2, and on occasion there was other schools that would also jump up and be a part of that. But like in 1971, you have the game of the century, 35-31. The winner goes to play in the Orange Bowl for the national title. And that year, the Big 12 had the number 1, 2, and 3 teams in the country after the bowl games. 1, 2, and 3, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Colorado. And they did not have a conference championship game. Can you imagine winning the game of the century, which we hear that even to this day, and then turning around the next week and having played Nebraska, Oklahoma again?
Yep.
Back Ohio State, Michigan again? Yeah. Of course, there were independents back then as well. Independent teams like Notre Dame and Penn State, Florida State,
you can, though,
among some others.
Just in the Big 12 history, though, you can point out to where it's helped and where it's hurt. It definitely hurt TCU. Like, I wonder what would have happened to TCU Baylor year. That would have been really interesting if they would have had to have gone and played a conference championship game.
Well, that was the data point that they were discussing that they both missed, and so that would have been, and they would have come up with something else.
But then you were told after, well, then there was the Texas-Colorado example of where you really got screwed by having a championship game. You lost a potential national champion appearance because of the conference. So, like, it goes both ways. I mean, and it has in the Big 12's short history. It's gone both ways multiple times. But yeah, that's a creation of the last 30 years that's become, quite the quizzical point as far as, like, is it good or bad, or how much does it harm, help, and I think for the Big 12 it's been a mixed bag mostly.
Well, from the first year, Texas, which then sent a message by winning that game, and beating what was the defending national champions back-to-back years, and beat them right. Great game, but they won. That cost Nebraska a chance to play in the national championship game. And Osborne's the one that mentioned that it would probably hurt more than help. And if you're a coach, you probably don't want to play that extra game. But if you're the commissioner, AD, and presidents, you want the cash.
Yeah, and look,
you just said it. You want the what? You want the cash, and that's what. Yep, that's why everybody's got one now.
Kansas State beat Oklahoma one year and knocked them. I think
Colorado beat Texas.
Yeah.
Well, and if you want a roadmap on how to long-term blow up your conference the day it starts, just start from 1996 in the Big 12. I mean, they made every time they were at a fork in the road and we could do this, they're like, oh, let's go down Dumb Street. Let's go down that one, because they just kept, like, every time it was like, good idea, bad idea. Like, oh, but the bad idea looks fun.
Here we go.
Let's go do that.
I know we got to run here, but 96, number 3 Nebraska loses by 10 to unranked Texas. 98, number 2 K-State loses by a field goal to number 10 A&M. You had, they won there.
Can you imagine if Kansas State might have won it that year?
Number 3 Texas in 01 loses to number 9 Colorado. And
03
number 1 Oklahoma 03. They still got in, though, and then they lost to LSU, and then that kick-started the whole SEC barrage, even though LSU won that game in New Orleans, and then USC beat the dog mess out of Oklahoma the following year.
That launched the SEC.
No, that launched USC.
Well, yeah.
The USC mini dynasty, which then faded into the full-blown SEC with a sprinkling of Ohio State and Clemson the last 20 years.
Texas ended that USC dynasty, too.
Exactly. So that was 03. I'm trying to think if there was any other major ones. A couple tail kickings by number 2 Oklahoma and number 2 Texas. I think that was kind of the highlights as far as those go. But that happened a lot early on. It definitely happened, 3-4 times in that first 5-6 years of the Big 12 championship game.
All right, in the 4 o'clock hour, Max Olson will join us, theathletic.com, among much more to come. We will hear from Joshua Perry from the Big Ten Network at 5:20 today on what's going on. Minnesota having a great start to their season with Paul's favorite coach in P.J. Fleck. This is 365 Sports.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford. In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Max Olson of The Athletic. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
We'll hear from Max Olson momentarily. No, go ahead. Keep that.
To take the lead for the Hogs. It hit the top and rains down into the end zone.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Every Thursday, or pretty much every Thursday, Max Olson, senior college football writer for theathletic.com, joins us. Max, thanks for your time. I saw your note about some of the new additions, the Big 12, your marks, adding this person, that person, this particular group, or this particular job. It does seem as if they are adding a lot of people, and a lot of it is towards just things that are new or trying to find new revenue.
Yeah, that's right. The announcement this morning was that they're partnering with Endeavor, with WME Sports and IMG Media on their global content and commercial strategy, which is a fancy way of saying they're going to be working with Endeavor a lot on these big decisions that are ahead of them, whether it's media rights, whether it's new revenue streams. And one thing I kind of highlighted in the release they put out this morning was that Endeavor is going to advise them on the use of sports wagering and NFTs. So I think it's a good hint to everybody that Brett Yormark, and I picked up on this from my first conversation with him at Beto Media Days, but this is a guy who's going to pursue making money in ways that we've not probably seen in the past in college athletics. He's got that different background, obviously, and so he's going to come in and I think probably try and push the boundaries here of ways that conferences can make money going forward.
Yeah, the sports wagering thing is interesting to me, Max, considering that the state that their office is in does not allow it yet.
That's right. The state that I'm calling you guys from doesn't either. Yeah, it's so we're not there yet. And when they say they want to, advise them on the use of NFTs, it feels like I can't tell. I don't know enough about it, but it seems like that market's not in the best shape here. So, but it's at the same time, like this is probably, and this is a departure from the way it was under Bob Bowlesby, and he understood that on his way out that. That the Big 12 board wanted to hire a deal maker, and certainly you're seeing that here in the past months. Brett Yormark making lots of additions to his staff, expanding his office, and taken them in some very different directions.
I'm just bummed that we missed the boat on any Max Olson themed NFTs potentially.
You don't know.
I don't know.
So far. Like I was joking with someone on Twitter this morning. Maybe you guys will see me in the Big 12 metaverse down the road here. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a whole new world. Max, last weekend was certainly eventful. I guess starting off and staying in the Big 12. Man, your pick, I mean, every game seemed like it had an interesting outcome, but I guess the biggest one was probably because of the ranking, K-State over Oklahoma, the fact that was in Norman, and how Adrian Martinez was just sensational. And you obviously know his game very well. What were your thoughts as you saw Kleiman and company run all over the Sooners?
Man, I want to hear Smokey's thoughts on watching prime Adrian Martinez going out and beating the top-ranked team in the Big 12.
You and I texted back and forth, and I can share that. I was thrilled for him. Now, Craig loves Oklahoma, Jennifer, Oklahoma family, side of that part of the family. But I was thrilled for Adrian Martinez.
I was too, and it's funny when you go back and watch the third and long run he had, that epic run, and even one of the touchdown runs he had. Like, he doesn't wear a mouthpiece. You can see the kid smiling as he's running with the ball here. Like, I think you can tell he is just so much happier than he was for these past few years at Nebraska, when you have that whole burden of turning around a program and a failing coach and all that on your shoulders. It's just a different deal for him this year. And, offensively, they were pretty conservative their first three games. It was nice to see them kind of let him let it rip, just kind of go out and make plays and kind of show everything he can do. And so, what an impressive performance. And, I don't think the sky's falling for Oklahoma by any means, but it is a reminder that, and I think you're seeing it right now with Miami and Florida and some of these other schools too. And obviously USC had a close game over the weekend. Like, you got to remember, it's still year one. It's not going to be super consistent high level play every single week. You're still working through stuff. The head coach is still kind of trying to figure out how to push the right buttons with his team. And I think OU is going to be fine, but that was a pretty good welcome there for Brent Venables. This is how it's going to be week to week. Oklahoma's got to be really sharp or they could lose games.
I want you to do me one favor, Max. When you go back and watch the Martinez 3rd and 16 run that sealed the game, when he came and stepped up to start to run, if you'll notice, he kind of cupped the football, protected it. And that's usually when something would happen with him. A turnover, he didn't protect the football. And I thought, again, that might be Chris Kleiman or Colin Klein, but I just thought that was a moment that I really noticed about him.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm watching that game with my wife, and she's a Nebraska grad too. And that nervousness just kind of sets in, right? When you're in that fourth quarter and it's like the one-score game, he's got the ball, and you're sort of like, you've just kind of been conditioned over these last 4 years of like, oh man, something bad's going to happen, right? Like you already are like expecting it. And it was so great to see him. I'm sure he even like didn't really quite know how to react to it, but what a great deal for that kid to have that kind of moment. And, it's encouraging about maybe where things can go for K-State here the rest of the year.
Max Olson, theathletic.com on college football on 365 Sports.
Max, anything come out of the CFP meetings this week that interested you, or is it just that sounded to me like a lot of just informing us of here are what they have to work on?
Yeah, not too much. I didn't get a whole lot out of that. I mean, clearly there's a lot of logistics to work through, and I do think the conversation about home sites is going to be interesting here going forward because the first year that we have that, whatever year that ends up being, those first couple of years, don't you guys think that opportunity to host that first round game in your home stadium is going to be such a big deal to people that almost those top four seeds are almost going to kind of feel bummed that they don't get that opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw what was the bowl chairman the other day who was fighting for the bowl games to actually be able to host. I think that's an awful. The whole reason the expanded playoff even seems fun for me, like 90% of it is those first round games being hosted on campus.
I agree. And so you wonder how much, like, will that stuff be kind of set in stone, or could that be kind of fluid those first few years of figuring out how well this works? And, every home site's going to be different on that. You hope that there aren't some of these schools that are going to prefer to, hey, we don't want to play this at our home stadium, let's go play it in Indy or something like that if you're in the Big Ten. But no, I think that first year of that first round of games in home stadiums, and hopefully you do get some across the country where maybe there's some different weather elements and stuff. I just think it's just going to be a whole new offering to the sport that's going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, Max, it's interesting on the bowls. I think that, I'm sure that a lot of them are afraid that the playoffs going to happen and undo them. I think if college football does it right, the bowls could see maybe a little bit of an enhancement here because you can mix them in with games that actually do matter. People might watch a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so. And look, those guys they have to do their lobbying for their interests and stuff. And I understand that comes with it. But, I agree with you. And let's not forget one of the things that we're struggling with every December that you would hope improves in this landscape with a 12-team playoff is, guys not opting out of those big games. I think hopefully maybe the tone changes a little bit there in terms of that decision-making process for guys who want to go pro or transfer or whatever to play in these games.
Max, the two highest-ranked teams right now in the Big 12 will match up this Saturday in Waco. This is the third meeting in the last 365 days between Oklahoma State and Baylor. Obviously, different teams from those two meetings a year ago. But I don't know quite what to make of Oklahoma State just yet. I know that they had the early struggle in the opener that wasn't as close as maybe the final score indicated, and then hadn't really played anybody since then. Baylor obviously got a big win last week on the road. Just kind of where do you see these teams entering Saturday?
Yeah, it was interesting talking to folks on the Iowa State side afterward. Their takeaway was they felt like Baylor's probably the team to beat just in the conference, just in terms of what they're working with up front. We knew that going into the year, obviously, but I think the way they were able to, disrupt things a little bit for Hunter Deckers was impressive, and it seems like they're starting to figure things out offensively, who to build this around. You guys would be surprised if it was a high-scoring game, right?
Yeah, our staff is picking, and we're all kind of putting out predictions. I haven't given mine yet because I'm trying to – that most everyone feels like that it might be. And I don't – I'm kind of against the grain from last year. Like Craig said, two different teams. What do you think?
I'm wondering if you guys are all picking this 24-17, like that kind of same as last year, basically. But they are two different teams. But I do think it is going to be a good defensive chess match still. And I'm with you. I still don't quite know. Oklahoma State's in the top 10, and I'm not going to sit here and say they don't deserve to be. But we're going to find out a ton about them this week because I think, obviously Arizona State is not one of the best Power 5 teams in the country this year, and so that was their big test. Obviously, they were better in non-conference play this year than they were last year. But, we're going to find out, kind of how is this Oklahoma State team, which I think offensively is going to just really be a lot more built around Spencer Sanders. I'm not saying their running backs are bad by any means, and we're going to see who steps up there. But this is a lot. This game is just as it was in Arlington last year when they didn't have Jalen Warren. It's going to be really on the shoulders of Spencer Sanders, and obviously Baylor was able to get him to turn it over 7 times in their matchups last season. So I'm sure he's extremely motivated and trying to play the best game of his career this weekend. And can Oklahoma State kind of put it all together here? This is their big test. We've seen it from Baylor. We've seen Baylor play 2 really good teams so far, and we kind of know what they're working towards. And this is a chance for Oklahoma State to kind of prove where they're at.
Yeah, Max, you asked that question about kind of what do we expect. I'm still kind of struggling with it because it's just a small spread in favor of Baylor, but the over-under is 56.5. So that would lead you to believe that it's going to be 30-28 or, something along those lines, which is kind of hard to picture. So, yeah, I have no idea going into Saturday.
And I mean, they couldn't have been any closer than they were in Arlington. So, yeah, it's going to be it's going to be an interesting one, but especially because we're all kind of wrestling with this question. I think we probably talked about it last week too, of just I think we can all agree there's not a bad team out of these 10, but really who are the best teams out of the 10 in the league this year? This is going to be a week where I think we get a lot better sense of that. And we also get Oklahoma TCU, which is going to tell us a lot about TCU and how Oklahoma responds.
I think the other interesting one, Max, is ISU and Kansas. Because Kansas hasn't played anybody like Iowa State yet, but Iowa State hasn't necessarily even played anybody like Kansas. Baylor was a tough game, but the way that Kansas's offense is wide open, that's a hard game for me to put my thumb on.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a few folks in Nebraska watching that game. What do you think, Smokey?
Yeah, no, I think so.
Probably making bold statements off of whoever wins about this is the guy we need. But no, I think this is probably the first time in a long time that someone's been, I think right now, who wants to play Kansas? They're just so hot right now. And Jalen Daniels is playing at an incredibly high level. And that wasn't their best performance overall against Duke, but they got the job done. And, this is a really critical week for Iowa State. They usually respond pretty well off their losses. And I certainly don't think that Iowa State's going to be, one of like the bottom 2 or 3 teams in the league this year. I think that from everything I've heard, Campbell really likes this team and feels like they've got a chance to be pretty special. But, this is the kind of week where you got to bounce back and kind of show what your ceiling can be as a team. They've got to run the ball better for sure. And they've got to do a good job of responding to all the challenges that Kansas throws at you. I mean, there was one point against Duke where they were running triple option and set back to pass like the old Nebraska days. Like it's awesome to see kind of all the different stuff that they can do in terms of their motion and all of the ways that they can are creative in getting different guys the ball in that offense. So it's a big challenge for Iowa State this week, and one that they definitely have to win.
I guess the only game we haven't touched on, Max, is from last weekend, Texas Tech and Texas was quite the contest, obviously. There's a great piece that was on The Athletic about Joey McGuire and, what he learned from Dave Aranda as far as going forward on 4th downs. And we obviously saw that come into play. And on the UT side, it's, no Quinn Ewers again and Hudson Card kind of struggling through as best as he can. Just what did you sort of make of the 2 different directions both programs, are going coming out of that game?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a report this morning that Texas had some players-only meetings this week, so that's not good.
Oh,
we're right back. We're right back in it. As much as things change at Texas, they stay the same. I think it's a week when they've got to really kind of rally and figure some things out here. And it was a hell of a game and one that Texas should not have lost by pretty much any measure. But just a total credit to Joey McGuire and the toughness that they're starting to build with that team and making Jones AT&T Stadium a place that people do not want to play. I think that was a pretty awesome showing there. And you got a hint of, they're not going to run 100 plays every week by any means, but that's certainly the decision-making that Zach Kittley, made in that game to get them back in the game and the way that Donovan Smith executed. Just really impressed by where they're at in year one. And Texas, you have to call this game a must-win for Texas because if they lose to West Virginia, like there's a pretty, you got OU next week. Like you're kind of staring at 2-4 at that point.
Yeah, and because of this conference right now, because there's so much we don't know yet, but it looks like everyone's pretty good, or at least good. That, you could fall in that trench and never get out of it.
Well, I think they kind of had a built-in mulligan like I was talking about, but West Virginia would be inexcusable. It's like one thing if you lose a game without Ewers or whatever, but like you lose to West Virginia at home, then that's suddenly not good at all for Sark.
Yeah, then it gets pretty dysfunctional here the rest of the way, and that's what Steve Sarkisian has to. I mean, he's obviously, by landing Arch Manning and the recruiting they're doing right now, he has bought himself some patience from people, but as you guys know, we always see from Texas, you lose a couple games and people turn on you pretty quick.
No matter.
It's just it doesn't matter what you got lined up here next year. They're always in win now mode here in Texas.
You as a guy that you are a Nebraska guy like I am, and I said I would not bring them up anymore, and we shouldn't, but we accidentally did.
Yeah, right.
But you see from where you are the discussion about some of the candidates, and I get a kick out of the fact yet again. Even there was some smoldering earlier about Dave Aranda, which you and I both, that's not happening.
A lot of Dave Aranda talk around here this week, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, and your thoughts, they don't quite understand him or the match here, do they, the Huskers fans?
No, I don't know that frankly, I don't probably think that Nebraska folks around here kind of understand where Baylor's at and how much Baylor has changed. And just the situation that Dave Aranda has right now, not just with Mac Rhodes and Linda Livingstone, but also where, with Baylor's the investment level in football and athletics and what the future of the conference looks like. I mean, why would you walk? I mean, there's always great jobs that open up, and Dave Aranda, because of his success, will probably always be on these lists. But, Baylor's couldn't be better positioned for the future right now when you think about a conference where Baylor could win a lot of Big 12 titles when Texas and Oklahoma are gone, and it could go to a lot of 12-team playoffs in the future. So, I think that probably Nebraska's going to throw a lot of money out there, but I don't think that Baylor's going to get outbid by anybody for Dave Aranda with the way things are set up right now. And I don't know that people around here appreciate that. what I always kind of say to it is like, yeah, Nebraska would be lucky to have Dave Aranda, but I don't think you really, if we're talking about realistic candidates here, I'm sure Trev Alberts would love to talk to him, but I really can't see that happen.
Max, I've said this for a long time. I think Baylor is the biggest beneficiary to conference realignment in the Big 12 on the field than anybody, just based on the fact that teams that they, and maybe we'll see it in the future, but if you take out A&M and Nebraska from the Big 12, those are two teams that they barely beat when they're in there. That's 2 games every year you're not going to lose. And then you take out Texas and Oklahoma, teams that they've turned the tide on in these last 10 years, but also teams that are tough, and bringing some new ones that you don't know each other yet. I think they've benefited more than anybody.
I agree, and it's like when you think about that day, let's say it's 24 or whatever it is that those two are gone. Like you're not sitting around saying like, man, maybe someday if Baylor can recruit at a top 10 level, they can win the Big 12. Like no, the way that Baylor's recruiting right now, you can win the Big 12 a lot of times in a 5-year or 10-year span. In this Big 12 as it will be, comprised in the future here. I mean, I just think you're going to have a talent advantage over a lot of teams in that new conference. As much as, there's not a bunch of programs that are recruiting at a top 25 level in that new Big 12, Baylor's access to talent and just the caliber of the roster, I think is going to be as good or better than anybody. And so, I think it's pretty good. I mean, like I said, it's a compliment to Dave Aranda, and that's always going to happen. I think that, like LSU would have been, crazy not to call him. I don't know why they didn't, last year. Like I think it's, but he's going to get lots of calls for these jobs, and I'm sure just based on my conversations with him in the past, like he's looking for a very specific thing, and right now he's got it at Baylor.
Yeah, Nebraska's got a lot of money. He's going to have more, but he doesn't seem like a money whip guy, and I think the expanded playoff really changes kind of that as well. If that wasn't in play, I still feel good about Aranda here, but I think that certainly helps, conferences like the Big 12 in a major.
But it's like Nebraska was calling Dave Aranda and saying we can pay you $7 million a year. Like I don't really see how that would be a problem for Baylor.
No,
that. You know what I mean?
No.
I just can't really see it.
And we really don't know if that
might be a pay cut
what he's making right now. Because hey, Max,
right. Who knows?
One more, Max. So we're just I love talking Big 12, but as far as the ranked games this weekend, kind of the ranked on ranked, we were talking about this a second ago. You got Kentucky and Ole Miss coming up this weekend. Alabama, Arkansas, Wake, and Florida State, and NC State, Clemson. Of those 4 games, which one's the most intriguing to you?
Yeah, I think the Clemson game's pretty exciting. I certainly was in the camp of being skeptical that they could be a playoff team this year if they kept rolling with DJ, and certainly he's proved a lot of people wrong in terms of how he started, and I think he pretty impressive last week in that shootout with Wake Forest, and NC State is a team that just brings everybody back on defense, and I think is going to have a lot of great answers for the Clemson offense. So can Clemson take that step and go win that game at home and, really kind of solidify the perception of them as a top 4 team? I think it's a huge opportunity in back-to-back weeks here for them. And, I think we'll be talking about Dabo Swinney's team a lot differently if they find a way to win this in impressive fashion.
Thank you, buddy. Give us a lot of time, and
Thanks,
we'll
guys.
take it. We appreciate it. Max Olson, theathletic.com college football writer.
I had no idea. I had not seen the tweet about the players-only meeting in Austin. Okay, well.
You want players-only meetings in week 5. That's just never good. I want a players-only meeting if I'm really bad in week 9. Like that's when I'm at my point.
Yeah, but here.
I guess they're trying to head it off the pass, but.
If there was a place where they couldn't stay behind closed doors, that's the place.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that probably happens more regularly when we think. I'm not trying to give them a total pass by any means, but that's just something you don't want to hear though. Like in week 5 of the season when, you're where you are. But no, that's interesting. That is a game this weekend with West Virginia where I think West Virginia's pretty good. They've had a tough schedule to start the year. To go win the Black Diamond in that final meeting with Va Tech was a big deal to close that out and get that W, and get it in Blacksburg for that matter. JT Daniels definitely makes a difference for them, and they've got some good skill talent and good defense. So they're fully capable of going into Austin and winning if Texas doesn't play their cards right. And I think that, up until this point, Sark kind of has Ewers has been hurt, and he fully unlocks the whole puzzle. And that doesn't mean you can lose 5 games in a row, but it does mean that, like, okay, you can stumble in Lubbock in overtime and you can kind of get a pass for that. And it's not just because they don't have viewers. Like, there's other reasons why they lost that. They couldn't get off the field on defense. Like, that was a primary reason. But I do think that gives you kind of an excuse.
What was the stat we heard from Sam yesterday? They ran an extra 23 plays.
Yeah, they ran over 100 plays. Yeah, over 20 plays after fourth down, I think fourth down was the stat. Yeah, so I mean that's obviously not going to happen every week. But yeah, their defense couldn't get off the field, and then you had the Bijan fumble to start overtime. Like they ultimately deserved to lose that game, but. You turn around and lose to West Virginia at home. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care who wants credit on defense. That would be a bad loss no matter how you slice it. So I'm very intrigued by I expect them to win because I just think that would be such a bad loss. But we'll see. We will see. That players only meaning doesn't change my opinion, but it does make me go, a little bit more than I was before.
We will break for a little bit with college football. Mickey Spagnola, the Cowboys have Washington, and they're a mess, as always. That's coming up this weekend, and we'll have Mickey. Craig's off the radar. 5 o'clock hour is loaded up today, including we'll have Joshua Perry, who covers the Big Ten. He works for the Big Ten Network. Baylor guard Adam Flagler today on his bounce back from a very frustrating last year. And then fantasy football guru Jennifer Smoak. Paul gave her that name, and last weekend she actually had a good weekend. In Paul's Top 5, this is 365 Sports. The City of Woodway. DiscoverWoodway.com. We've got an event coming up here in a moment. In fact, what is it, Monday? Yeah, they've got an event coming up, which is called National Night Out. It is with all the first responders, police, fire, EMS, etc. You can have a chance to meet and greet them and get to know them and understand what they do. Even ask them some questions if you would like. It's 6 to 8 coming up. It's actually October the 4th, which would be on Tuesday of next week. There's a drive-through cookout fundraiser coming up October the 8th. WPSA drive-through cookout fundraiser. If you want to be a part of that, Woodway Public Safety Association. So another part of giving back and also learning about what they do as a fundraiser. Cops and Kids Halloween drive-through. Paul loves Halloween. He'll be a part of this with DiscoverWoodway.com. Cops and Kids Halloween drive-through. October 29th. It's a busy, busy month at DiscoverWoodway.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to the water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now, and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And Prescott on the keeper, walks in, touchdown, Dallas.
It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com. Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour, we'll hear from Mickey Spagnola here momentarily, DallasCowboys.com. And again, as we always say to you, thank you for those in the chat room, the text line. We had a bunch of those early on today and a bunch that have followed up as well. In Fleck, the 918, saying that don't count Texas Tech out of the football game. Kansas State is pretty much a one-dimensional team. They throw the ball 35% of the time. I haven't made my prediction in that game either, and I don't think they are. I think right now with the Big 12, you have games and you kind of throw things up or you roll the dice. I think it's that even across the board, at least for right now, until somebody or 3 separate if they do.
I mean, I'm with you. My one thing is that the one loss Tech has on the year is their one road game. So now they're going back on the road. They don't have the benefit of the Jones crowd and all that comes with playing at home. Not that that's like such a factor that it tilts, the wins and losses that wildly, but I do think it's a factor. So that kind of is one of my tipping points, especially when it's kind of a close contest, because I do think this is. And I do wonder how K-State plans on, really attacking the Red Raiders, because the easy answer is, yeah, of course they're going to just have Adrian Martinez trying to run wild and Deuce Vaughn, in conjunction with that. But knowing Joey McGuire and Texas, they're not going to let up on the run now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to be keyed in on stopping the run. So something's going to have to give there. One way or the other. And, yeah, how much can K-State throw it around when they need to? Because they're going to need to at times. So that's an interesting game.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, with us on Thursdays. Mickey, thank you so much for your time. If Philadelphia sacked Wentz, 8 times? With what we saw.
9.
Who?
9.
9 times. Okay. He didn't want to hear 9. But if they got to him 9 times, and what we saw Dallas do to New York on Monday night, what do you think is a safe number against Washington for Dallas?
Can they go for a dozen?
Why not?
I'm sure. Yeah, and Mike McCarthy was basically asked that same question, and his answer was basically, you know what, it's a different game, it's a different team. They'll have made adjustments. Although I noticed that their center has not played Schweitzer. He's out with a concussion, so that certainly wouldn't help their protection any going into Sunday's game. But I would imagine the Cowboys are, thinking, okay, let's pin our ears back and go after them and see what we can do and disrupt Wentz. But that's kind of how the defense has survived these last 2 weeks with, sacking the quarterbacks. Commanders, boy, it's hard to say that. They lead the league having given up 15 sacks, and the Cowboys lead the league with 13 sacks of opposing quarterbacks. So, yeah, that's a little bit of a mismatch there, you would think.
Mickey, this was, the second straight win for Cooper Rush. They're not making him do a lot. They're not asking him to do a lot of things that Dak does. Of course, he's not Dak, but it looks like progressively throughout the game, they're more and more confident with him taking chances, throwing the ball deep, aren't they?
Well, I don't know if it's taking chances. I just think it's playing quarterback, Paul. And I think that, they've kind of given him the same sort of game plan they would give Dak. Maybe not attacking as much, but when your defense is playing to the level the Cowboys defense has played in the first 3 games, you really don't have to do that. But again, those drives in the fourth quarter were pretty impressive. And so with the pressure on and having to throw, they're not babying him. Hey, we got to go. It's a tie game against Cincinnati. We got to score. They fall behind 13-6. I think everybody forgets that against the Giants, and then they scored on 3 consecutive possessions, including coming behind again in the fourth quarter to win a game. So I don't think they've minimized what they've asked him to do. Let's put it that way.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. And Mickey, does this say something about Dallas? Because that doesn't mean that they haven't overcome injuries before, even with Rush last year in Minnesota. But there have been times in the last few years, or maybe for a while, where if something like that happened, it could shut them down. And a lot of teams don't like to have their quarterback out. But is this a little more of an edge to this team, or is it still too early to tell?
Well, I don't know if it's too early to tell. But, David, I think when, you have to go back and say, okay, what was the defense doing those other times? Because, when you hold the opposing team to 17 and 16 points, that makes life a lot easier on your backup quarterback. You're not asking them to go out there and score 25, 30 points to be able to win a game. So I think that's got a little bit of what's going on. And then just maybe the general team around him, the way they've been able to play these last couple games, establishing the run, not having to throw 40 passes a game to try to win. You'd have to go back and look at the other times when Dak has been out, what sort of game it was, who they're playing. But I think for what they've got going on right now, and Mike McCarthy uses this term all the time, it's a very complimentary game. They play to their defense and ask the offense to do just enough to be able to win the game. So, yeah, there's been other times when they've had backup quarterback. I mean, think about it. To win his first 3 starts, only 2 other quarterbacks in Cowboys history have done that, and it was Jason Garrett and Roger Staubach.
Mickey, the left tackle situation is a lot better than I think we all thought it would be. Even, knowing that Tyler Smith was a first-round draft pick, he seems to have adjusted very well. Do the Cowboys have a big decision to make when Tyron Smith, if he does come back this year, and tearing a hamstring is not necessarily something you would come back for, but if Tyron Smith is back and Tyler Smith is still playing at left tackle, do we have a Dak Romo situation at left tackle?
Boy, you're 2.5 months down the road, aren't you?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see how everything plays out. But for 3 games, I think Tyler Smith has played awfully well for a rookie, and not having had many, if any, training camp practices at left tackle. He was at left guard, but I think everybody can see he's pretty talented. And I think you just got to let it play out and see how it's going come middle of December, when and if Tyron Smith indeed comes back. I mean, when they make those prognoses, they're always kind of hopeful. But what if you keep winning and he's playing well? Yeah, I think you do have a decision to make if you just keep going with the status quo. And then make Tyron Smith your backup swing tackle, which wouldn't be all that bad if Tyler Smith is playing that well. And if they get the left guard position settled down. Jason Peters sure looked pretty good for 14 snaps. Maybe this week he gets 28 snaps. And then who knows where it goes from there. Maybe he takes over the position and they think he can play it better than Forniak or McGovern. And when McGovern comes back, he can go back to being the part-time fullback, part-time third blocking tight end, and whatever else that they've tried to use him as, and also the backup center guard. So, there's a lot of things they can do at that guard position if Jason Peters shows that he's capable of handling it at 40 years old.
I know DeMarcus Lawrence only played 7 games last year, but he's already matched his sack total, and he looked frisky. How much does Micah Parsons help DeMarcus Lawrence?
Oh, a heck of a lot. He helps the whole defensive front a heck of a lot, because if you watch the game closely, they kept, whenever Micah Parsons was lining up as like a pass rushing defensive end, they put the tight end over there and the tackle over there. They would chip him if there was only one guy. And a couple times, David, I saw that they had the tight end there, the tackle there. He was pushing through those guys, and the guard came over and helped out. So at times he was triple teamed, right? So, that everybody else is one-on-one. Or one of the other formations they use defensively is they have their 4-down defensive lineman with the DeMarcus Lawrence. Let's say he's the left defensive end. And then they line up Parsons outside of DeMarcus Lawrence. Now what do you do if you're the offense? You're going to put a tight end out there to stop him, or you're going to try to get the running back to chip him as he comes in? It's a mismatch. And in any situation, then DeMarcus Lawrence is singled. That certainly helps. But again, no one helps you get around the guy that's blocking you. So pretty impressive. And I think it reminded everybody of what DeMarcus Lawrence is. And you mentioned it. They forget, he only had 3 sacks last year. Well, he only played 7 games. And when you miss 9 straight after the opener, when you go back in, you're not a full-time player for 2 weeks for sure. So he probably played five games of normal snaps. So he had 3 sacks. Got 3 sacks already. That was pretty impressive. And as Dan Quinn said earlier in the week, he goes, there might be some people that forgot who DeMarcus Lawrence was, but we haven't forgot about him in this building. And he said, I guarantee you, nobody's forgotten about him in other buildings around the league.
There are guys who are obviously ranked highly and thought of, but if you look at the Cowboys and what they had, and of course they had at one point what looked like almost like across the board All-Pro and Pro Bowl linemen. And then Frederick went down, and then, of course, Tyron's been injured, and Lyle Collins is gone. Tyron Smith was a high first-round pick, correct?
Yep.
He hit. Zach Martin was a high first-round pick, correct?
He hit.
Travis Frederick was one who dropped, and that was a little bit of a debate.
31st pick, but still a
first-round pick.
Yeah.
He hit until something happened because of just way things are in life. And now Tyler Smith, it's early, but it appears as if he might be a hit. Is that rare to hit that many offensive linemen who are drafted in the first round, even if they're first-round picks?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. They've been right on when they've been evaluating these first-round offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Now, they've had some troubles in the second and third. But, for first-round picks, that's a pretty good record right there with those guys in, a decade and a couple of years with Tyron Smith and then Frederick Martin. And I know they didn't draft Lyle Collins, but they convinced him to sign with him and got, several good years out of him before the hip injury. And he just wasn't the same. And I think you would agree after watching him play the Cowboys in Cincinnati that he's still not the same. And one of the reasons they moved on from him. And then the fortunate thing building that line was they saw something in Terrence Steele. And after he had a rough rookie year, he really improved. And to find a starter as a free agent, that's a godsend. For that to happen.
Mickey, go ahead.
Yeah, Mickey, I think the biggest thing with the Cowboys and the offensive line is they hit on the first-round picks really well. They are just now starting to hit on the guys who aren't. right? I mean, because they've had trouble, if you lose a first-round pick or whatever that is, or somebody moves on, the replacement has taken a while, but Terrence Steele is the first guy who really kind of maybe has shown that they've grown a little there in that area too. Well, yeah, and and the jury's still out on the other two tackles that are still on the 53. Well, Lesko is he's a rookie. And was injured and missed the majority of training camp. And Ball, he missed all his rookie year, so he's essentially still a rookie. And he had injury problems last year, and they're hoping one of those guys can develop at least a backup swing tackle, so you don't have to go out and sign a guy fighting father time at 40 years old to come in and be a backup. So yeah, they've done a pretty good job for the most part on offensive line. If you go back and just look over the last kind of decade, and the person that should get a lot of credit for it is Jason Garrett when he took over as head coach midway through that 2010 season, and he recognized that suddenly the offensive line they had just got old. And they had to do something about it. And they started spending some high draft resources to restock the line from 2011 through, 14, when they took Zach Martin.
Hey, Mick, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. Mickey Spagnola Thursdays in the 4 o'clock hour on the Cowboys and some NFL news and notes as well. There's a game tonight, right? Craig's going to talk about it, I'm sure. With Off the Radar?
Yeah, I'm going to mention the game tonight. There's always a game on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
It's the Amazon broadcast after all. But also, a little teaser, a final decision, it seems, on Sam Ukwuachu. That's coming up next in Off the Radar.
All right, Off the Radar is next. 365 Sports. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. They have the #1 cigar of the year, and we're talking nationwide and worldwide, in Padron, the 1964 Natural Torpedo. It's a very good smoke. I had a box given to me by Don Humidor. I go by, and I also love to buy the cigars that are inside their 48-foot walk-in humidor. On occasion, we'll send some to my brothers. And one of my favorites is La Fontana, and there's a torpedo edge with that one, and then also a Churchill length as well. And so that's kind of the one I like. But I had the #6 Padron, #6 Rocky Patel, a box given to me. Appreciated that. They have Macanudo, Ashton, CAO, Padron. You want Romeo and Julieta, Arturo Fuente. You want them? They got them. And they also have CBD products, which is, it used to be called Vita Dreams. They changed the name of the product. They changed the name of the brand or whoever they get it from. But what it is, it's a gummy that you can nibble on, and you kind of get to know what you want. And if you do that an hour or so before you're ready to go to bed, it'll help you get more relaxed and fall asleep and not toss and turn and lose whatever amount of time it is. They also have all of what you need with the accessories as far as the humidor, cutters, torch lighters, and more, and coffee beans, fresh coffee beans. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, during Ram Power Days, shop the year-after-year award-winning new 2022 Ram 1500, designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This is a truck that's legendary. Get the first-class feel and luxurious leather-trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround-view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Allen Samuels in Waco is the place to shop for Ram trucks. Visit today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for Off the Radar. We do this Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 4:45 or so. It's a 10, 15-minute segment taking a look at some stories outside of the Cowboys, outside of college football, you know, our normal topics. And we spread it out, I think, ultimately, but a place to stop down twice a week and really get into some of the bigger stories or more interesting stories in sports. And I said a name right before the break that might have been jarring to some, you know, Baylor fans in particular, might sound familiar to a lot of college football fans out there, and that was the name Sam Ukwuachu. And for those that don't remember that name, that was the Baylor football player who was basically at the heart of the entire scandal, the Briles firing, and all that came with that. Gosh, what was that now at this point? Like 5 years ago?
2015 is when it started
to
erupt.
So 7 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, it was really 7 after this 26. No, that was Grobe's 26. Yeah, so after 2015.
August of 2015.
Yeah, so like 7 years ago, he was the player that was basically at the heart of the story and it popping off and all of that with the Texas Monthly piece and then everything that came with that. Ultimately, Art Briles gets fired. Everybody scatters. Now Kendall Briles is the OC at Arkansas. Jeff Lebby's at OU, so on and so forth. So what you may not know is if you didn't pay attention to the story, there was a lot that came after that for Sam Ukwuachu. Like he didn't just... It wasn't you were found guilty and you go to jail. There was appeals and appeals and appeals, and it's been back and forth for the last 7 years.
Yeah, I went to the first appellate hearing that he had because I covered the original trial. I went to the first appellate hearing, and it was really interesting. But for someone who's not a lawyer, I was like, so it sounds like that judge, I asked, one of the attorneys that was there, I was like, so it sounds like this judge in the middle really is on his side. Like, no, they ask questions like that so that the attorneys have to answer them the way that they, and so I left completely confused.
Yes,
so.
You told me that. You called me every night like, God, you didn't have enough Advil.
Yeah. So anyway, so this all happened back in 2017. And so originally his conviction got overturned in 2017, and then he got appealed. And then he got overturned again in 2019, and then he got appealed. And it was twice, overruled by the Court of Criminal Appeals. And back in November of 2020, I guess, was one of the more latest developments in this case, and we're about to hit November of 2022. So I'm sure COVID kind of sidetracked some of this and whatnot. But this thing's been ongoing for 7 years. And back in November of 2020, they had reinstated the conviction. So all of these appeals have basically focused on kind of the same points, and it's just, I guess, a matter of whose hands it's been in as far as what they've determined. But the point of it is, without getting into all of the details, is that today the Texas 10th Court of Appeals in Waco ruled to uphold the 2015 sexual assault conviction of Sam Ukwuachu. So the appeals are, over as far as the bouncing back and forth goes. The justice wrote the court found no reversible error after he had claimed his due process rights were violated during the trial. So the direct appeals process is now over, but according to Texas law, he does have some other routes that he can go. His attorney said that he was disappointed and intends to continue his efforts to have the true facts finally proven in court. So this is not over, but it feels pretty over as far as, the odds of this ever working out ultimately in his favor and it, him going on to live life. Like, I think that's well over at this point.
So where is he now? Paul,
he's out pending appeal, and so he's lost it. So I don't know if he has to go back in. I mean, like he didn't serve very much of his 6-month sentence. So it was 180 days that he got, registered sex offender, 10 years probation. So he's already 7 years into that 10 years probation. And I think these will be the things that eventually they probably negotiate out about him, going in or serving time or probation, time already served. But that registered as a sex offender thing is something he probably, unless he finally does one of these appeals all the way up the top, that he could get to. But this is not looking good for that side of it. And as a person who covered that trial and was there every day and listened to every last shred of testimony, I can tell you that I would not, on my worst enemy, wish being a juror in that situation and having to deal with he said, she said, but I do know how I feel about it, and I do feel that the justice was served in that case. But again, I wasn't a juror, and I wasn't the judge, and I wasn't an attorney. I was just there covering it. It is a long process, and it's been very complicated, and I just wonder how things could have been different if it would have handled differently all the way along the line.
Yeah, so he's now 29 years old. The original conviction was in August 2015, and they had recommended he be placed on probation, and he had been ordered to serve 180 days in county jail. He apparently had served 2 months and 2 weeks before being released on an appeal bond, and I've looked around, and I don't know, what he might have to still serve, I guess. I don't know, but the basic message is there's some conclusion, it feels like here, albeit he'll still appeal, but I just don't think that that's going to be covered much or that he has much of a chance to reverse it this time. So I think there's some closure. I don't know if that's the right word, but I think you understand where I'm coming from with that word. I think there's some closure here as far as the back and forth nature. So I wanted to pass that along. Elsewhere around the rest of the world of sports, do have some interesting things going on in the world of baseball. Aaron Judge, 61 is official. I'm just curious as we kind of stop down here, do you guys care? Does this matter to you at all?
It's cool, but I mean, Barry Bonds is the record holder.
Okay.
That's the record.
But there are, and we may be being a little bit harsh because the Yankees get shoved down your throat. And just like some NFL fans may think that about the Cowboys or Tom Brady or whatever.
I saw Reddit College Football put together a great thread on why this is like the UT, basically, the Yankees, and why you're supposed to care and root for Aaron Judge and all of that. It's the brand thing. It's very much a brand thing.
He's it seems to be a good young kid, a man, and he obviously is really good at hitting home runs, strikes out a lot, but everybody does, it seems like, in baseball today. I did not watch it live. I got the alert when he hit it. I saw the highlight of the guy that dropped it or didn't make the catch just over the railing, and that would have been worth a couple of $1 million. It's not like it's something where I go home waiting to hear about or watch Aaron Judge. But, all right, it's an American League record. That's fine. To me, that's like an NFC rushing record, not NFL rushing record, the NFC rushing record, which is held by both Emmett, But
if he was a Pirate, would we care?
Yeah, I think we would be. No, it would not be the same. No.
All right,
I don't think so.
Roger Maris's son, Roger Maris Jr., threw a little bit of gas on the whole conversation, not in a crazy way or anything like that, but they had a press conference after the big, 61 home run, and he said that, he believes that if he's able to hit 62, which is just one more, obviously, that Aaron Judge would be the true home run king because of all those steroid guys. So that he believes that. That's Roger Maris Jr. saying that. I say poppycock. That would not be the case at all. Barry Bonds is the home run king, in my opinion, and 76 is the record.
73.
Is it 73? Why do I think 76? 73 is the record, and that's where I stand on it. I mean, cool that he got this mark. Cool that he might add on to it, but all due respect to Roger Maris Jr., I think that's also kind of a keeping it in the family type of a thing there. Like, that's the true mark from another Yankee, and Rogers is the second best mark. And no, it's not. It's not. And it's cool, but I'm not all caught up in it. I was just curious where you guys kind of sat.
And I understand the Maris family feeling, because they were there with Mark McGwire every step of the way and feeling like they had been had a little bit there with, the performance-enhancing drugs and everything that was going on in the 90s in baseball. So I kind of get that, because you were there supporting him. Mark McGwire was very gracious about Roger Maris and the family and all that the entire time. But then at the end of the day, he was still, at the very least, using Andro, because we saw that in his locker, which went on to become a banned substance all over the place. But it was legal in baseball then. And given what Roger Maris went through, I can see why his family, feels really strongly about this, because to get this record, he went through hell.
Yeah, the 90s are the best, man. The 90s were awesome. Freaking
the
awesome.
way Roger
Just roided
Maris
up baseball players in the home run derbies.
Roger Maris was treated almost in a way, different circumstances to what Henry Aaron dealt with trying to overcome Babe Ruth.
I think it was probably a little bit of a harbinger. Yeah. Just imagine how bad it was for a guy like Henry Aaron.
All-time hits leader is Pete Rose. Mm-hmm. We don't know if he wasn't, on bennies or any kind of amphetamines. And I think Pete Rose is an incredible player, although not in the Hall of Fame. We know the reasons. That's another debate. But Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs during a time when Major League Baseball turned their backs or turned their heads and coughed and didn't say anything about it. And so you can debate it. He is the all-time single-season home run record.
All right. Well, let me know when we got to run here. So I'll just keep doing stories until we need to. I want to mention another thing in baseball that they've been experimenting with pitch clocks in minor leagues. And I saw an updated story today on ESPN that they've actually tallied how much the pitch clocks have helped in minor league baseball, because next year, do you guys realize this? There's going to be pitch clocks in Major League Baseball. You know that, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
That's going to be introduced next season in MLB. They're going to have devices installed that monitor the pitch clocks. And apparently, according to the study of how it worked, the games were 25 minutes less as far as the average time. So I don't know if that makes a difference in millions of people flocking to watch baseball because there's an extra half hour that they're saving. But for the purpose of the study and what you might be used to next year, might get an extra half hour of free time out of baseball, which I think is pretty significant. I would love for college football to institute some types of clocks to get us on a better track where it's not a 63-0 game that lasts 4.5 hours.
You could save 45 minutes, no reviews.
Yeah, that's one.
And when you call a penalty, say it. No meetings. Say it.
Yeah.
Procedure 75.
So the average this year was 3 hours and 4 minutes. So this would give you 2.5 hours basically for a ball game. I think that's pretty significant. Yeah. I don't know how much of a difference again it makes in viewing, but that's notable for going to the game for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Look, the Athletic actually recently did a story about shortening games in college football because they're averaging over 3 hours and 15 minutes now, and the time has creeped up over the last couple of years. Is where they thought they had it wrangled back, and that said that now they're not going to stop the clock in incompletions, which I'm like, shut up. The NFL still stops the clock in incompletions. Just do their timing rules. Just do what they do. Why are they trying to figure this out? You play the same exact game for the same exact amount of time except for halftime.
Can you imagine, Paul, if it was back when the days of when you went out of bounds, you were out of bounds and the clock stopped until you took the next snap?
Yeah.
We'd be at 8-hour games.
So why they're trying to all figure this out, I mean, the two things they can do is limit the reviews and
especially in the Big 12, man.
Yeah, limit the reviews and adopt the NFL's timing clock. And so if you adopt the NFL's clock and still keep 20-minute halftimes, which you will because you have bands in college and pageantry is part of it, but then you should only be averaging 8 minutes more than the NFL, not 28 minutes more.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes, and this is the NCAA, sometimes they do research when the answer is right there. You don't need to go into the card catalog when how to fix this problem is on the shelf in front of you.
Yeah. So that's interesting. There's some other twerks. There's some other quirks to the rule. The twerks would definitely maybe get a younger audience in baseball. I mean, maybe that's the route to go. I don't know. But there's some other quirks as far as pickoff attempts and things like that. But it's just interesting that the pitch clocks have cut a half hour off of game times and will bring it under 3 hours, which is kind of nice and convenient. I don't think that, and I didn't mean this intentionally, I just think it was a timing thing. We've mentioned kind of the Aaron Judge race along the way the last month or so, but I don't know if I mentioned Albert Pujols right after he hit 700. But I did want to make mention that in case I haven't, then please talk about it from your guys' point of view, because he definitely deserves that, even though it's very old at this point. But Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina, they'll have their final regular season home game for the Cardinals this Sunday. And the Cardinals broadcast has announced that they will have expanded coverage with on-field festivities honoring both players. There will be a master of ceremonies, Bally Sports Midwest Dan McLaughlin. There'll be a pregame show beginning at noon and all sorts of festivities. But, they're going to have some festivities there for the final regular season home game. Pujols and Molina, those are two legendary Cardinals and two pretty incredible baseball players, and it's very cool. As a matter of fact, I know we didn't mention it because I would have said something about Adrian Beltre and Pujols' celebration, but what have you guys made of Pujols carving out his niche in baseball history this season?
It's pretty cool. I've always liked him. He kind of went to Anaheim, and it didn't all work out. And
it was. He did.
For him to have this resurgence, and then you could always wonder, okay, what's he doing? I've always kind of liked Albert Pujols, and this has been kind of fun for me. Maybe nostalgia. Maybe from nostalgic reasons.
It's like the old man triumphing.
I forgot about him.
You know?
I did. I forgot about him. He really did. I forgot about him. And for him to be able to, it's kind of like a pitcher back when you could get guys to get to 300 wins who just played long enough and all of a sudden compiled enough. But and they won the division, and he helped them take over the Central Division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy for Pujols.
Going to, and I mean, I know this is days old at this point, but him going to Beltre immediately as he touched home plate was just a very cool. They're buddies, and I just thought that was awesome because I'm a Adrian Beltre lifer. I love that guy. Yeah. So to see that, I was not as unexpected Beltre. Just all of a sudden after a 700 home run.
Elza gone on the chat room. Pujols' 700 is bigger than Judge.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
there you go.
It's totally. It's a career-long thing.
What about Pujols, and when was he hitting? How long was he in the juiced era?
I mean, he was there right after. He was a rookie.
You're really going to bring it down like this?
No. Somebody asked on the chat room.
He was a rookie in '98.
Okay, well.
Or 97.
Actually, he didn't start till 2001. Okay. That was the last year of the juiced era. He hit 37 home runs. So
yeah, but and I'll tell you this about Adrian Beltre. Also an Adrian Beltre lifer. When he comes up for the Hall of Fame and he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer,
I'm punching somebody.
I will. We will be protesting.
Yeah, we'll go out and broadcast from Cooperstown.
We'll go to Cooperstown. Absolutely.
One other note on the home run record, Craig. Somebody on the chat said that Sosa was walked a lot more than McGuire. The year that Sosa hit 66 and McGuire hit 70, Sosa was walked 78 times and I think 12 intentional for 90. Mark McGuire was walked 162 times that year. And that doesn't include 162 walks once a game, even the year that he hit 70, 133 the next year. So
I know Bonds got walked like crazy.
Oh, God, yeah.
You know, we had all sorts of let's peep into this intentional walk with Barry Bonds. All right, Myles Garrett, you saw that he got into a little bit of a car accident earlier this week, a single-car crash. Ohio State Highway Patrol have released a statement to ESPN saying that Garrett was traveling at an unsafe speed for the type of roadway that he was on. According to Highway Patrol, he was driving 65 in a 45, suffered a left shoulder sprain, right bicep strain, cuts and bruises, and his vehicle went off the road and flipped over. So he's thankfully okay. He had complained of some pain, and you can see some of the body cam footage that's out there. But he was back at the facility in Cleveland today, but not practicing. So it was his fault. And I don't know what it is. I know in general, just looking around like this city, I see people speeding way more than ever. It feels like, and I know part of that's me getting old, but it just feels like they are. But these NFL guys, man, like, how did you not learn from Henry Ruggs earlier this year? I mean, I don't know.
Or the two NBA guys after they were in Charlotte.
There's plenty of examples. There's plenty of examples of being stupid driving. So that was a little follow-up on Myles Garrett. There's a few things off the radar.
Bonds was walked 232 times in 1 year.
There you go. Yeah.
177 the year he hit 73.
Oh,
coming up.
Dolphins-Bengals tonight on Amazon Prime. Dolphins 3-0, Bengals 1-2. So you have that to look forward to.
Adam Flagler's back, LJ Cryer and others, Langston Love, and I had a chance to visit. Craig, thanks for Off the Radar. We have Adam Flagler, and then we talk Big Ten, and then fantasy football on 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC, Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for a great deal and for great customer service for the life of your car as well. And the wait is over. They have trucks in stock right now. 2022 GMC Sierras are on the lot. They're waiting for you to test drive today. Amongst the features they offer with the Sierras, a best-in-class towing, multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, a luxurious interior that includes massive touch screens, 14 camera views, premium comfort. The list goes on. And those Sierra trucks are waiting for you to test drive right now, so get to the dealership and check them out. But if the exact truck or SUV is not on the lot, then get on their inbound vehicle list, and you can cut in line for trucks that are in production but not quite in stock and ready to go. Or if you're wanting to go more of the customization route, let them help you over at the dealership design the exact truck or SUV you want, and Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize that vehicle for you. They have new trucks on the lot. They also have dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock. All of them have undergone a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot. And with dozens of lending options, Richard Carr says yes when others say no to loans. For 23 years in Central Texas, having built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, Richard Carr, run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. He cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The other way, can they beat it on the fly? Flagler,
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Baylor guard Adam Flagler, 365 Sports with David Smoak. And, man, it's great to hear your voice. It's great to see you're back. Did you ever question whether or not you would play this season?
I questioned whether or not I would be back, being that I entered my name into the NBA draft process and everything. But, super excited to be back and just glad to be able to be a part of this team and this community at the end of the day for another year or so.
How much did you lean on LJ and also Langston, who also were having to deal with what they dealt with along with you?
We definitely, communicated and, had each other's back in the process of, getting healthy and being strong and having the possibility of playing with each other this upcoming year. But, we all had our individual things we had to go through. But as a collective group, as a team, we all kept in communication and wanted to see this happen how it is, going right now, being able to play together this year.
And, of course, there's the inspiration of Jonathan as well. How much do you watch what he does and are amazed at what he's trying to get done?
Oh, yeah, extremely amazed. But it's not, it's not no surprise to me because of, the things, he's done over the years ever since I met him. The reason that his nickname is Everyday John is the things he's capable of and the work he puts in. So we're all super excited for the progress he's been having with his recovery. And, we can't wait to, see him on the court, soon. So
there's no doubt, Adam, you love basketball. You love a lot of things. You love what your faith is about, too. But what did you miss the most when you couldn't play?
I just miss, the most being able to, create those memories and be able to fight, at the end of the day for my teammates and being on that court. I know as fans, it's just so amazing, to see us play, but to be able to sit courtside and assess the game but not be able to completely help, it definitely was a nerve. It was frustrating. And but being able to be back in full strength and be with the guys has been so amazing. And we're super excited for the season to come. We got 40 days left, and I'm counting down. So
Well, a lot of people are. Obviously, the last few years have been amazing, and 2 years ago, we know what happened. You cut down the nets. Baylor will cut down the nets this season if, and you fill in the blank.
Baylor will cut down the nets this season, if that is in God's plan, of course. But if we are remaining healthy and we are, a team in all aspects of it, communicating on and off the course, spending time with each other, being accountable, held accountable, but most of all, having fun out there. We had, extreme amount of fun that year. We won the championship. Last year with injuries and everything, it kind of blurred the true, meaning of, being able to play this game, and that's to enjoy it and have fun. So being able to redo that and have those moments again is definitely going to lead us to the end of the road as we expect.
When is chemistry or camaraderie developed? Is it during the off season? I know sometimes you, LJ, whoever you weren't always around, but you were when you could be. Is it during that time, like the summer, or is it now during what you can consider almost like fall camp?
I definitely think that the building of chemistry it starts during that summertime, but it continues to grow on as time goes on, and you can see the teams that are most connected out there is when they've continued to build their chemistry to show it come March time. So we're definitely building it right now, and me and LJ and the guys that weren't as present, we're definitely putting the time in right now, and we just had to prioritize at the moment, getting completely healthy. So we're just glad that we could come back full strength and give our all to the team.
So you have some incoming infusion of talent as well, and obviously a lot of people have focused on Keontae, but there's other new talent, transfers, etc. What are your thoughts now that you've had a chance to work out just for a couple of days and what you see?
Oh, I have, great thoughts. Being able to play against Jalen, of course, I've definitely, seen his game, and we as a collective group are really excited to have him. Caleb is a guy that is going to bring something special to the team, and his leadership and just how physically opposing he is. And then Keontae, of course, the talent that he has is noticeable by anybody, but at the end of the day, it's the fact that how coachable he is and how eager he is to win at this level. So it's been great having all these new guys as well as the returning guys mesh with new guys and make it a full-on team, and we're just continuing to stack days one by one.
I asked you what you missed the most when you couldn't play. What part of your game might somehow be better because you did have a chance to watch the game more than you wanted to, but you had a chance to watch the game more from the sideline?
I know for a fact my leadership is definitely a part of the game that has grown from being able to see from the outside looking in the things we have to deal with as players, it being so opinionated and the fact that, being able to talk with the coaches and see their side of what they want us to do on the court. It's definitely helped me be more of a player coach while I'm on the court, because I've seen both sides and can implement it into the game to best help, my teammates.
We're talking to Adam Flagler, Baylor guard on 365 Sports. You guys are obviously loaded with a lot of people who can score, but one of the things about Baylor that's been so important has been defense. What needs to happen, in your opinion, to get to that level defensively that's really helped Baylor become the elite team and program that you are?
It's definitely just a desire. This defense is all about, effort and wanting to do it. And, being at basketball, a lot of times it gets seen as an offensive sport. Baylor, as well as, the coaching staff in general, have done an extremely great job implementing that defense is the main importance of that wins championships. So being able to rep it out, go against each other, compete at a high level, but spending that time off the court and having that connectiveness will allow us to be a dominant force on defense.
Adam, you played the point. Of course, you made a name for yourself because of what you could do shooting as well. Has all that been ironed out yet, or is that being done right now about how things are spread out among the guards?
It's definitely we understand for the most part our roles. It's just a matter of actually playing together, knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses, and being able to, communicate on the court, because we could be talking it out off the court, but if we're not spending time on the court, it's not really going to look the best, and we're not going to perform to the best of our ability. So right now we have all of us have an understanding of kind of the roles we're playing. It's just a matter of continuing to work on it and being the best we can be.
How does being the point guard change you and your role as far as what you do as a scorer?
It doesn't, truly, in my opinion, change it too much, because I know that at the end of the day, if all of us are aggressive, then that helps us the most. So being able to be aggressive and go out there and look for my shot, but also having that leadership and that mentality to, think about the next person. That's always, who I've been, somebody who's cared for the next person and wanted to see us all succeed. So just being able to show that at a higher clip and a higher level is just what the point guard and what you'll be able to see a little bit more out of me this year.
Anybody, whether they're an athlete or not, who's had any kind of surgery has to go through the rehab, the tedious process. And there are times in which you're like, is all of this worth it? And, of course, you have a future, a career you want, plus to play again at Baylor. What was your darkest times?
My darkest times would have to be the decision, with the draft process, to have to cut it short. And, it was a beautiful thing in disguise, obviously. We got the opportunity this year, but at the moment I couldn't see it, too clearly. So being able to be so close to my dream of wanting to play in the NBA and not being able to do everything was, it really hurt at the end of the day, but it was all in God's timing and God's plan. So that had to be it, being able to not move how I wanted to, play how I wanted to, and show my abilities to the fullest how I wanted to.
One more thing. Again, Adam, appreciate your time. We know how you rely on your faith, and that's amazing, as so many do who play for Baylor. Who did you lean on the most outside of your faith? A couple of people that helped you get through, whether it was the decision-making or the rehab, or when there was a little soreness or some pain and you weren't sure if you could push yourself, or just, the emotions of being who you are. Who helped you the most?
My parents did, an exceptional job. I know that, as I continue to grow and mature, they allow me to have these emotions and to learn how to get through these trials and tribulations, but they were always there and supportive. I have a girlfriend that, is on my hip all the time, and she's, very spiritual as well. So she's, been in my corner for so long. Coaching staff has done an exceptional job of just being there and putting the basketball aside and making sure I'm okay. My teammates from the past, Jared, would talk to me. Maceo, we almost talk all the time nowadays. Davion's checked in. So just, as a Baylor culture, everybody's, try to, make sure they know that I'm, loved and I'm seen at the end of the day, and they want me to be okay regardless of basketball. So
you're ready to go, aren't you? I can feel it. You've been doing all this to get to this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited and ready to be able to play in the Farrell Center and just traveling, and it's something that you don't think about too often, but going through that draft process and being able to come back just makes you even more appreciative of being able to be at this level, this school, and have this opportunity.
Got that amazing smile, an incredible person, great basketball player. Adam, thanks for your time. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Adam Flagler on 365.
Adam Flagler, 365 Sports, Baylor senior guard. We're now joined by Joshua Perry. The Big Ten Network joins us with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak on 365 Sports. Joshua, thanks for your patience. Among what we expected or you expected in the Big Ten, what has been the biggest surprise to you?
Well, this thing has kind of played out generally to my expectations. We knew Ohio State and Michigan were going to be really good in the Big Ten East, and that has been the case certainly. Penn State's been a surprise that they've gotten better at the offensive line and the run game specifically, so that's good to see. Michigan State probably the biggest surprise out of the East with as much as they've struggled, but those past defense struggles go back to a year ago. They were abysmal. And you look over to the West, I expected Wisconsin to be down a little bit. I expected Iowa to have a very poor offense, and I looked at Minnesota as a team who was going to be able to take control of that division. It looks like they're going to be able to this season. The team that I had higher expectations for this season was Purdue, and they have found ways to lose games throughout the early part of the season. So that's a little bit of a shock there, but I mean, it's been pretty much chalk for me in the Big Ten.
What does Wisconsin have to do to get out of their little funk here?
I mean, the offense has to be more explosive. Graham Mertz has shown flashes, but against good competition, he certainly struggled. And Ohio State presented that issue for him a week ago. And I think it goes to two things is the development curve for Graham Mertz certainly needs to increase. Ohio State's way better on defense. And I would take the defensive performance against Ohio State by Wisconsin as more of an aberration because of how good that Ohio State offense is. I think their defense will be fine, especially as they get into some Big Ten West games because, there aren't a lot of teams over there that are going to really be super explosive offensively. But for this Wisconsin team, like Graham Mertz has to find ways to make the big plays. Wide receivers out on the edges have to get open. Braylon Allen can't do it all alone.
Joshua, Iowa hosting number 4 Michigan this weekend. We know the story with Iowa, tremendous defense, not a lot to really love offensively. Can they play well enough defensively and score enough to perhaps topple the Wolverines this weekend, who look awfully good in their own right?
Yeah, I was thinking about this game earlier in the week, and I said if Michigan gets to 17 points, the game is over. That's how I feel about this Iowa offense. At this juncture, Michigan needs to be wary of this trap, though, as Iowa's a team, you mentioned how good their defense is. They're a very patient defense, and they're a pretty simple defense in the fact that they don't run a ton of coverages. So they know what hurts them. They know how to play what they do extremely well. And when you're Michigan and you've got 2 young coordinators on offense and a young quarterback, patience is going to be the key. So for the coordinators, like, if the big play is not there, you just take what's underneath. You don't have to show everything you worked on throughout the week just because you worked on it. You call the things that you know are going to work. For J.J. McCarthy, I know you want to push the football down the field. You want to make those dazzling plays that everybody knows you're capable of. But sometimes the best play is going to be the check down to Blake Corum, where you can get 5 or 6 yards. He might be able to run through a couple of tackles, and it ends up squirting for 10 to 15. That's an awesome play. But when you start getting greedy and you want to really test this Iowa team down the field, that is where they hurt you because they can take the football away with the best of them. So that's my analysis on them. If Michigan goes out there and they do some uncharacteristic things offensively, and they're back to what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. They're running tight ends out there, heavy emphasis on the run game. They take the shots down the field, but they really try to play it close to their vest, which I think really works. If they get away from that, this could end up being a tricky game. But outside of that, I really see this Michigan team as a very good football team who can compete at the highest level, and they should be able to handle this game, be in full control from the beginning.
When you're in the Big Ten in the East with Michigan, Ohio State, what Penn State's doing, and you thought Michigan State would be a part of that battering ram as well. If you blink or whatever, you could find yourself in trouble. What is Michigan State in trouble?
They are. They're in big trouble, in my opinion. And, it's time to sound the alarms over there. And I was actually on the call for their game this past weekend where they hosted Minnesota. And from the opening drive, Minnesota got the ball first. It felt like that game was going to be out of reach, which is a wild thing to say. But Minnesota was able to just grind out the clock on them. In Michigan State, defensively, I mentioned earlier, they have struggled. Those struggles have not been fixed. And, it's mind-boggling to me because I think Mel Tucker is a really good coach, and he's cut his teeth coaching defense. They haven't figured it out yet. And then offensively, they really have not been able to get into a good groove because they haven't been on the field all that much. Go back a couple weeks ago to when they visited Washington. Washington got up in that game early on. Michigan State's in chase mode. They can't establish the run game. They're trying to throw the football down the field. Peyton Thorne makes a mistake in that game that they wish they probably had back, and it's over from there. you look at this game that they had against Minnesota, and Minnesota's defense is a defense that gets off the field 70% of the time on third down. Michigan State's drives were extremely slow, and Minnesota at one point in that game had a 10-minute offensive drive, have not been able to get into a rhythm offensively. So I look at this as the defensive side of the ball struggling, and now it's really leaking over and affecting the offense too.
Joshua, do you feel that there is a team in the Big Ten that has not hit their – you mentioned Purdue. Could they hit their stride late in the season and build something to next year, or is there another team like that could do that?
You know, I talked to former Penn State quarterback Christian Hackenberg. He's become a good friend of mine. He is still in on Purdue. I've kind of gone away from it because I've seen them do too many things to hurt themselves. Is that correctable? Absolutely. Do I have confidence in them right now? Not a ton. The sleeper team that people need to keep their eye on is Illinois. Mm-hmm. They have a very good defense. Ryan Walters, they paid a ton of money to keep him in the offseason. That money has certainly paid off. Their offense looks different. Barry Lunny Jr. is their offensive coordinator right now. They're putting guys in space. They've got transfer quarterback Tommy DeVito, who's done a pretty good job for them. But, you know, it's not like they have maulers up front, but they use their offensive line to move around and create running lanes for Chase Brown, who's the leading rusher in the country right now. They're playing Wisconsin this weekend. Wisconsin, I believe, is favored by 7. I don't know if the line's moved since I last checked it. I would take Illinois outright in that game. I think that's a really good football team, and Brett Bielema is a heck of a coach.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think Illinois is a fun team that probably not a lot of people are talking about, but they will. I think they will start as the rest of the season goes along. In terms of PJ Fleck in Minnesota, up until last week, you could argue, well, let's see him play somebody. And they play Michigan State, and they just demolish Michigan State. And we, like you just got done saying, don't know really where Michigan State is. But that felt like kind of a statement. What do you think the trajectory is of PJ Fleck and the Golden Gophers at the moment?
They could be in Indianapolis by the end of the year for the Big Ten championship game. I firmly believe that. And I know a lot of people had questions about their early schedule, and they played some dogs. They played some awful teams, but they were in full control of those games. They executed their game plan the way that they want to, which is a heavy dose of Mo Ibrahim on the ground. Tanner Morgan looks so much better now that Kirk Sherrock is back as offensive coordinator at Minnesota. They run an RPO system, and Tanner Morgan has looked precise and confident in full command of that offense. Their offensive line was replacing 4 out of 5 starters. Those guys look great up to this point. Chris Ottman-Bell, their leading wide receiver, went down with an injury, and a bunch of guys stepped up against Michigan State. And then I said it about their defense. What they did to Michigan State was phenomenal in my eyes. But you can go back to last year, statistically, one of the best defenses in the country, and nobody nationally talked about them. Nobody talked about them. They didn't talk about them this offseason. Nobody talked about them in the preseason. And they're doing the same thing they did a year ago. And I think PJ Fleck really embraces this idea that nobody's talking about them. But this is a team that's going to get plenty of buzz as the season comes to an end. Because I think if they can go out there and be true to what they are as a football team, run the ball, throw it efficiently, play great defense, emphasis on special teams, they can run the table in the West.
All right, so we know about USC and UCLA in that timeline. Is that even a part of the discussion now that the season has begun in the Big Ten?
You know, it pops up every once in a while, but everybody's focused on what's going on with the current 14 teams. And there have been some fun storylines coming out of the conference as of right now, so you don't necessarily need to talk to it. I think everybody's keeping their eye on what's going on out west, and USC certainly has opened some eyes with Lincoln Riley. He's a great coach. I think defensively they're going to need to get a little bit better, and they've made some strides on that side of the ball this year. So it's not to say that they have a bad defense, but coming into the Big Ten, they'll be challenged. But great additions. This offseason was a lot of fun just talking about that. I think those two teams are going to add so much value to what we see on the football field. But it hasn't been a ton of chatter because we're so inundated with all the fun things coming out of Big Ten land right now.
So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Joshua, if I turned you into Trev Alberts right now, who's the first guy you're texting for that job?
Oh, man, that's such a tough question. I mean, Lance Leipold feels like a guy who's opened a lot of eyes. What Kansas is doing right now is ridiculous. Is he the splashy hire, though? And I think Nebraska fans really want to make a splash with who they hire next. He would be at the top of my list. Jim Leonard, who's defensive coordinator right now at Wisconsin's another guy who I'd look at, but again, probably not the splash that folks are looking for. As you go deeper down, like, does Matt Campbell feel like a good fit? I mean, he's got ties to Big Ten country, spent a lot of time in the state of Ohio. It's where he grew up. He's recruited well enough at Iowa State, and that's a tough place to win. He's had success there. Do you think you could make a phone call to Dave Aranda and see if you can pull him away from Baylor? Like, there are some guys who I'd be really interested in. I think they're in a very tough spot, though, because you have to hit on this hire, and everybody thought Scott Frost was going to be a home run. It turned out to be the exact opposite. And if you're Trev Alberts, as much as I've talked about making a splash, like, you just got to get the right guy. You have to spend so much time interviewing. You have to exhaust all resources. You're going to have to open up the pocketbooks, which is no problem over there in Nebraska. They're highly capitalized. And ultimately, it's got to be the right fit, because this is a fan base that probably is a little bit unrealistic about what their ceiling should be as a program. Probably not in the national title hunt like you were back in the 90s, but there's no reason why they can't be that competitor who makes it to the Big Ten championship game every handful of years, and then maybe you can pull off a surprise from there.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Leave Dave Aranda alone. He's not leaving Waco or Baylor, and it's a great fit. But I understand his name obviously being out there because of how successful he's been. Great work, man. We appreciate you. Hope to get you on again, if you don't mind, right down the road.
Yeah, you guys just give me a call. Let me know when you want to have me back. This was awesome. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's, again, Joshua Perry, Big Ten Network on many things. Minnesota does look good. And then, of course, you know about Ohio State and Michigan. Wisconsin, who are they? And what about Michigan State and, among others, like Iowa as well?
You want to know something funny about the Big Ten West right now is if you look at the standings, and granted it's early on, everybody's played a conference game, but Northwestern is on top of the Big Ten West at 1-0, and they have not won a game since their opener against Nebraska in Ireland. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that, hey, that was a big win because it was a conference game, but not much has happened since then, and we know what's happened with Nebraska because – we just got done talking about it.
It's unbelievable how it just one. It's like Georgia Southern loses, or
he's right about Illinois though. Like I don't know how many people really pay attention to them, but they are a good football team. And Chase Brown's arguably the best, running. I mean, he's a leading rusher, but I mean, he's one of the better backs in the country. That Tommy DeVito move was very smart, and yeah, the Illini are. I mean, they're not a contender, but they're an interesting team for sure.
They've only given up 26 points through 4 games.
Yeah.
And 20 of them were in one game. The game that they or 23 of them were in the game that they lost. So,
all right, when we come back, Jennifer Smoak on fantasy football. She had success. How much of it carries over? And some questions about who's up, who's down. 365 Sports. Pickup Outfitters, they can do a lot for you. In fact, I was talking to Brian Etheridge, one of the partners of our company. And Brian is incredible about when he comes down to Waco, he will come in and go to see our clients, our sponsors, and support them. And one of the things he's looking at doing is something with one of his vehicles. Pickup Outfitters can help you. The largest selection of covers from all the major manufacturers when it comes to a cover for a pickup truck. Also, if you want to help with the entry into your pickup truck or whatever vehicle it might be, it's a little bit higher. They have man-sized step-up into the cab, family SUV that helps you or the children or wife or whoever get into the truck or vehicle. They have the steps that will come out and allow that to be a little easier to access as well. If you want bumpers and grill guards, they can do that. Deer season can be rough on your truck. You want to protect it, and you can. With the various bull bars and grill guards and bumpers and more and bumper guards at Pickup Outfitters. Jay Arrett, CreateACommotion.com at 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people. Good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
It's time for fantasy guru Jennifer Smoak, brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, a hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive.
Well, we could actually say that she was this past weekend as she mauled her opponent, winning big to go 1-2 on the year. Jennifer Smoak joins us on 365 Sports. What's it like to actually come on the show after winning?
Gosh, it's been so long. I can't, I don't even know how to act right now, but it's exciting. I'm super excited with what my team did last week, and it's good to finally have a win under my belt.
It wasn't even a game. And it wasn't even. It was
Paul, it's all we never know with her.
Look, it wasn't even a game. Jennifer dominated, won by, 60 points essentially. It was ridiculous. So she's good. And look, this week is another favorable matchup for you. But Jen, I gotta congratulate you on you made 2 big time moves this week. They're really smart. Khalil Herbert and Garrett Wilson. Great moves to add to the bottom of your bench, especially given that you've got some questionable guys in that lineup. I might even play Khalil Herbert over James Conner if I were you.
Yes, that's one of the decisions I want to make this week, because especially if Montgomery does sit out again this week or is limited, then that is my decision I need to make, is to put Herbert in, and that's probably who I'll go for, because I did have Connor sit on my bench last week because I wasn't sure how he would perform after coming back from going out early the week before, and Gibson just hasn't been that exciting for me, so I'm definitely excited about what I saw Herbert put up last week. I mean, he was the top fantasy running back last week with 157 rushing yards, 2 receptions for 12 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So I'm hoping against the Giants defense, who's allowed about 5 yards per carry, for a running back, I do feel like Khalil would be a good person to put in as running back 2 this week.
Jennifer Smoak, fantasy football guru. Who did you beat again? Jennifer?
Sorry, say that again.
Who did you beat?
Last week I beat Tamara, and that's Taylor's sister.
Okay, and so who do you have this week?
Persia.
Okay, well, she's got an undefeated team, right? Isn't she?
No, she's 1-2.
No.
Oh, really?
No.
What
Persia
happened to her team?
Well, it was last year.
Persia, yeah, Persia's the
different
two-time champion the last 2 years. So this year, I don't want to say this because I don't want to jinx myself, but her team this year just hasn't been as strong as it is in years past. They've just been kind of average. But, this week, of course, she has I feel like she has this week she has Mike Evans coming back from his suspension. So I expect him to have a big game, especially, and she has Brady. So I'm sure they're going to have a top-performing game up against the Chiefs on Sunday night. And then right now she currently has Jamal Williams on her bench, which I hope she keeps him there because he's due to be the Lions' lead back this week with Swift still injured, and against the Seahawks defense, who's allowed the 3rd most points per game to opposing running backs. So I expect him to have at least a rushing touchdown this week and have a good game. But like I said, right now she currently has him on her bench. And she has Joe Mixon as one of her other running backs, and he's yet to score a touchdown this year. So that's another person, she's due for a big week.
But the game with the Chiefs and Buccaneers, what you would think, Buccaneers play really good defense, but that game could be in the mud, right? Paul, is Tampa a real turf?
No, it's grass.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's
grass. And it's saturated. They've had all the rain. They had the hurricane kind of just skirt by Tampa, so you never know. That could be a mud bath.
Yeah, I've heard that they don't have too much damage done. They're still expecting to play there, but I mean, and the thing about Brady is he really hasn't been, a crazy fan, hasn't put up a lot of fantasy points so far this year, but it definitely should be fun to watch him go up against Mahomes, and I can see it easily being a shootout and a fun game, but I haven't been as impressed with Brady this year, but again, her team's due to have a big week, all of her players.
Jen, I'm just curious because I you know me, I'm not heavily involved in this, but how does a 42 for 63 for 400 yards, 4 sacks, and 2 touchdowns performance for Josh Allen stack up versus the first couple of weeks?
Oh, God. I just
not
can't
good, okay.
say it enough. I love him, though. I love him. I was upset that he couldn't get that last touchdown on the whenever they were on the 1-yard line, and I hated to see the Bills lose last week because they're really my favorite team right now just because I love Josh Allen so much. But, I mean, it's funny. It's still not a disappointing week for him. It's he's just incredible. And I'm super excited about some of these matchups this week because you have the Bills versus Ravens. So Josh going up against Lamar is going to be a super exciting game. Tonight, the Dolphins versus the Bengals. This is the first time that Joe Burrow and Tua have met since November 9th, 2019, when LSU defeated Alabama 46-41. And then, like I mentioned, the Chiefs-Bucks matchup. So there's some exciting games this week that I'm looking forward to. And, it's just, another fun year of football.
So how much do you like Josh Allen?
A lot. He's my favorite player on my team next to Waddle. And we need to talk about Waddle. So last week, I had two of the top 5 receivers in the NFL last week, Waddle and A.J. Brown. And it's like when I was doing my draft, those weren't even 2 of my most exciting guys that I was looking forward to, and now they're my stars. But the Waddle, it's funny because people talked up the fact that Tyreek Hill was coming to Miami and thinking he was just going to be as big of a star as he is with the Chiefs, and he is. But Waddle is the one that leads the team in targets, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns this season. He's had at least 100 receiving yards in back-to-back games for the first time in his career. Now, he is listed as questionable tonight, and so is Tua, but they're expected to both play. Waddle was struggling with a groin injury, but Waddle has been super exciting to watch, and I do think the Bengals really matched up well against Tyreek last year when he was on the Chiefs, so I think they'll be ready for this team, but I still am hoping that maybe they'll focus more on Tyreek and, give Waddle another over 100-yard game.
Yeah, Jennifer, your wide receivers are killing it, except for Allen Robinson, who's on your bench, and I would suggest, if I can make one more suggestion for your team, there's so many better guys on the wide receivers in free agency, just drop them and pick up any one of those guys.
Yeah, I'm super disappointed. All I heard about before, like during the preseason, was how well people thought he was going to do with Stafford, but we all know how that went when I left Allen in the first week. So, yeah, he's been pretty disappointing and hasn't been performing, but I'm sure he's going to be one of those guys that once I drop him, he'll go off. Another position I wanted to take a look at was I have Hawkinson, and Hawkinson finally got a touchdown last week, but he had a season low of 18 yards. So I still am just annoyed with him, but I'm trying to decide between Conklin and Hawkinson. I haven't picked up Conklin yet because I don't have anyone I want to drop except for, possibly Allen. But I also wanted to see how the chemistry is between Zach Wilson and Tyler Conklin before I pick him up, because it will be Zach Wilson's first game back since his injury. So what do you think about possibly picking Conklin up?
Yeah, I don't think that would be a bad move. I mean, there's only, Jacob, what did we say last night on the fantasy show? There's only 3 tight ends or 4 tight ends you want, and everybody else you can kind of figure out. David Njoku's available in your league too. Might not be a bad one, especially while Jacoby Brissett is still playing there. They seem to have some.
What
some
about
chemistry.
Gallup?
He's not a tight end, but
okay. Yeah, of course. I thought you were talking about receivers.
Tyler Conklin. But again, he's in that group of guys who I think he'll probably maybe flourish a little bit with Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson I think that's going to be a good little combination there. In fact, Jacob's stardom sit-in this week had Garrett Wilson on there for that reason. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about Garrett Wilson. That's just what's so hard is I have so many good wide receivers that it's hard to switch those out because it really is just a hit or miss and trying to decide who's going to have the better matchup. It's my running back situation just in that second running back slot that I've got to figure out, week to week right now. But, yeah, so far I've been impressed. Finally, Derrick Henry showed his worth last week with 85 rushing yards and a touchdown. And what was exciting was they're throwing him the ball. He had 5 receptions for 58 yards. And usually he's not one that they usually throw to, but I feel like they thought, okay, well, we're not doing well. Let's figure something else out. So it's exciting to see him get some catches, especially with this being a PPR league, because that gets me more points. And he was the number 3 fantasy running back last week. So that gave me some satisfaction for picking him as my first pick. And I'm excited to see what he does this week.
Yeah, you gotta let this thing play out. By the way, Sir Blah 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 on the chat room, when I asked about Josh Allen, how much you liked him, he said, "No way, Jennifer, I love him more." And then he said, "Oh no, wait.
Fight.
Yeah. So
Jerry.
Yeah. All right. So the fact you won after a year of nothing but losing.
Whoa, calm down.
This is like Kansas. This is like the story of Kansas.
Jennifer, when was the last time you won a game last year?
Dad, it's irrelevant. We're in a new season. We're focused on now, not in the past. Okay? We're focused on now and the future.
All right. Here's from retired stockbroker on chat. David asked Jennifer if I should even start Josh Allen and Cooper Kupp on their bye weeks. He's that good.
First of all, I would be a retired stockholder or stock person in this economy right now, too. But okay, ask that question again.
Ask Jennifer, should I start Josh Allen and Cooper Kupp even during their bye weeks because they're that good?
Stop. Yeah, if only points would roll over, that'd be amazing, right? But, yeah, no, don't do that.
I know Paul's got his top 5. And, by the way, we'd have more time, but they wouldn't stop asking questions in the previous segment.
Yeah, I finally win and y'all cut me short. It's fine. I understand. I'll talk to y'all next week.
Any dents in the furniture this week? Did the furniture avoid any kind of wrath of Jennifer in fantasy football?
That's a no comment right there. That was a strong no comment.
And you put like patio furniture on your Christmas list, or what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I understand the question.
Well,
what you just
broke
said.
it.
You broke a table like a year ago.
Yeah,
he's asking if you've like dented anything or smashed anything.
No. I've tried to. I mean, I've definitely had some moments where I have gotten mad, but nothing like previous seasons. I've actually been impressed with myself. And this last week, I decided that I was going to stay busy so that I didn't just sit there and just bite my nails the whole time. So that's why this win was even more enjoyable.
All right. What does Oreo do when you start to lose your mind during fantasy football games or NFL games?
She jumps up on my lap and whimpers and gets really stressed. It's really sad. But like anytime we yell or anything, she comes and starts beating her tail and like shaking and like wanting to know what's going on. But I think she's kind of used to it by now. I think the first few seasons I was playing, she was like, "What's going on with Mom?" But it's getting better. I'm learning how to control my emotion.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. All right. Does Daniel jump up in your lap and whimper too when he has a bad thing happen?
Stop.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let's hit it to Paul's top 5. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jennifer Smoak, fantasy football guru.
As good as an intro as I
had
could
a
have
monster weekend and won her first week. She's now 1-2.
Oh. All right, so it's time for the top 5, which was introduced by Jennifer. We're over time, so we're just going to go right into it. But this is top 5 college football stars from Southwest Florida, which was devastated yesterday. It's my hometown is Fort Myers. Very like Fort Myers Beach, especially Sanibel Island, all those places are just in shambles right now. A lot of places, Fort Cape Coral, Naples, places in between. So I thought I would just bring some awareness to the area. And if you can make a donation to the Red Cross or something, please do it for Fort Myers. There are a lot of people there that certainly could use the help. But top 5 college football stars from Southwest Florida. This one, number 5, I went back and forth. And I'm going to mention a guy who didn't make the list, but everybody knows him. Martin Gramatica was from Kansas State, was from LaBelle, Florida, which was one of our rival high schools. But Martin Gramatica and his brothers all played at LaBelle. But number 5 from North Fort Myers High School, Noel Devine. You remember this guy at West Virginia?
West Virginia.
Just absolute... 3 of these guys are actually from the same high school, but absolute speed demon. And this was in honor of our West Virginia viewers and listeners.
We have a bunch of them. Yeah, Joey and them are happy this weekend after the win last weekend.
Yeah.
All right, or this week.
Yeah.
All right.
This one more recent, still in the league right now, from Fort Myers High School. Sammy Watkins is from Fort Myers, played a great career at Clemson, was one of the first guys that Dabo Swinney went down to that South Florida area and plucked away from the Florida schools and started to build his empire there.
Yeah, great player. Terrific player. And on his NFL career, seems like it's been kind of back and forth. Always feel like I'm hearing him like injured or something along those lines. But Noel Devine, going back to that's really my wheelhouse as far as the early 2000s go. And he was very fast and a great player. But Sammy Watkins, a stud.
Number 3 from a very small rural town, Immokalee, Florida, now Hall of Famer Edgerrin James. And this guy is the only guy on the list that got tattooed by number 56 right here.
You hit him?
We played in the spring jamboree, and it was going into my sophomore year. And in the spring jamboree, you only play a half, so the coaches want everybody to play. So they just have this like, all right, defensive line number 3, go in.
You didn't answer my question. You hit him?
I'm getting to that. So all of a sudden, it's like I get this, Catalina, you're in. And I thought, oh, great. And I look, and there's number 5 back there playing for Immokalee. And I was like, wait a minute. The first thought is like, why in the bleep is he in the game? If I'm in the game, he shouldn't be in the game. It should be some little guy, not this dude. So first carry, he runs straight into me. And I still think that when I breathe at night, it hurts a little bit. Yeah. So no,
You think he remembers you?
No, I don't. I'm surprised I remember him. To be quite honestly, it hit me so hard. But Edgerrin James, a dude from Immokalee High School, he had a great career at Miami, great career in the NFL. But Edgerrin James, a guy that everybody would know.
Absolutely great player.
Yeah. Number 2, Javon Curse. From also North Fort Myers High School. If you're sensing a theme here, they get some dudes. Javon Curse, in high school, this dude, let me tell you about him, was a wide receiver and a safety. And then Yeah. Can you imagine trying to cover him?
No.
Or at safety, if you're a wide receiver, in that days they didn't throw as much, but even still,
His
him
nickname
coming
was
downhill.
The Freak, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He got to Florida, and he was recruited mostly by Florida and Florida State were his top two. Bobby Bowden straight up told him the truth and said, hey, you're going to be an outside linebacker defensive end because you're 6'6", and this is what you do. And Bob Stoops and Steve Spurrier, Bob Stoops was the DC at Florida at the time, said, no, you're a safety. Who else is a 6'6" safety? And he was a safety for about an hour, and then they moved to outside linebacker, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
And number one, the biggest guy from Fort Myers is Deion Sanders. Had his basketball tournament there. Once got arrested for fishing at the airport to promote said charity event. But Deion Sanders, North Fort Myers High School, which also Boston Red Sox left fielder Mike Greenwell was there at the same time as Deion, or maybe a little bit before. But Deion Sanders, everybody knows Deion, but he is also from Fort Myers.
Is J-Ron Kearse related?
Yes, they're cousins, I want to say.
Cowboys safety? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Also from Fort Myers. Yeah.
All right, Paul, incredible. Thank you very much. Thanks to Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, Garrett Ross, and also Jacob Wilson. Thank you on the chat room today. A lot of text today. Thanks for the calls today. And thanks to our sponsors today. Back at it again tomorrow at 3 for Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
Stay safe, Florida.
Yeah, be careful, and good luck to you getting through all of what you're dealing with. I'm David Smoak. Good night on 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.